breaking through. You feel me too. I still wanna run to you. Am I breaking through? You feel me too. Still wanna run to you. Am I breaking through? You feel me too. Still wanna run to you. Am I breaking through? Am I breaking through? Am I breaking through? Am I breaking through? Am I breaking through?
All right, everyone. Welcome back to another week of the Aegis Esports Legends of Runeterra League. I'm Domcast. I'm joined by TDS, the one and only. We're here for some more action. What are you looking forward to, TDS?
After a start that looked like had a lot of things that people are not happy to see, I think we're going to be seeing a lot of similar things. I was already kind of waiting if we get the chance to see any LeBlanc decks or anything like that because I've kind of been up on that. But obviously, what I'm pretty sure we're not going to see much of today, it's going to be the Seraphine. I think that is pretty much going to be something not a lot of people want to play against, if I'm honest.
I think people have picked up on how annoying the deck is. If no other adjective, it's just not fun to play against. Because eventually, whether you're dealing with the Seraphine or not, you're dealing with the Ezreal insta one shot your Nexus. But with that said, we have some fun things to look forward to. But before that, we should talk about the state of the league. We've talked about it for 3 weeks now, but we have a new format going into this season. We have, the normal best of three between each players, but they also have a collaborative match at the end between all three players with one deck list that they've chosen to bring with them. So that's always a lot of fun to look forward to because it's something new. Every season here at Aegis, we've done something new with our Legends of Runeterra competitions. Initially it was just a solo gig and then it become a team,
Pretty
and now we're
much.
into this whole full-on collaborative stuff. So it's always fun to see new stuff coming, and it's always interesting to watch because three heads obviously comes up with wilder plays than one.
Yeah, and it makes for interesting dynamics because obviously there's times when someone is a much more creative with the angles that you can try and play. Someone can be much more methodical. So trying to mix up the strengths of multiple players can create some dynamics that are really interesting to see. And it also makes for more, I think, or better overall gameplay because you know that three players adding up on themselves can create
Hmm.
better matchups overall. So I think it's a fun idea. Obviously, AJ is always trying to look forward with. Totally, we're not forced to say this. We actually believe these kind of things, and it's exciting to see these kind of changes.
No, it's always fun. And you mentioned coming up with new things, new ways to look at the game, and we've talked about how annoying Ezreal Seraphine is. We have some new decks to look at today, which we can get to in a minute. But again, this is just what we've seen as the competition has grown. Is everyone's bringing new stuff, and with the amount of high level players here and them all bringing something new, it's so interesting to see how stuff changes from week to week because you have the meta, you have you go on Runeterra AR, you find what's the top deck. It's Ezreal Seraphine right now. Don't bother.
Yeah,
I already tell you. But you see like, oh, this is the best deck for solo queue. Like if I'm just going to go against one person once, this is the best shot I have. But when you're in this sort of like organized competition in a best of three, Ezreal Seraphine is obviously still good, but it's not always the best. Someone will bring a deck that is exclusively about beating an Ezreal Seraphine, and you don't really want to
exactly.
use that in the ladder because it's not going to be useful all the time. But in a game like this where you can take a guaranteed win with something like that, with a guarantee like a specific counter to a deck, is actually just insanely useful, and it's always fun to see that. As I think we have the first deck lined up. Do we know, Wookie?
Ooh,
And there it
yep.
is. It's Quag Business Damien 1917 with a very interesting deck to say the the least. TDS. It's Teemo, Gwen, Shellfolk. So it's very interesting that it's a Shellfolk deck because you only have the Otterpuss Conchologist as your and Trinket Trade as your pick three cards. The rest of it
Yep.
is interest is interesting to say the least, I guess, because you only have the opportunity with your like six cards maybe because you only have one Otterpuss. You have
Exactly.
Conchologist and Trinket Trade, but then that's not the sort of like infinite prank generation that you usually see in these Shellfolk decks.
This to me feels like a really feast or famine deck in the way that you're banking quite heavily on everything working out at that certain moment.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you, like it doesn't feel like it has a lot of outs. It doesn't feel like it has alternatives if your main modus operandi doesn't work out. And I think that that's maybe one of the balances of the deck. But to me, it feels like one of those one-offs that you try to play to throw off the opponent, and you use it to maybe not get a straightforward win, but to at least force your opponent to be worried about this because obviously since it's not a lot of experience going against some kind of this kind of deck, it may force a ban out and it can open up other decks that you really want to play. Or if you're really confident on this, you can just get up, like I said previously, a free win out of nowhere, and then you have a much easier time playing forward.
Exactly. And that being said, it is still a Shadow Isles deck with
Yeah.
Vandal City. So there is a good amount of clear. You have, your Pokey Stick for the draw, the Unspeakable Horror and the Unto Dusk, and then even the Lightning Rush can you use to recycle a Conchologist or an Otterpuss if need be, if you are able to get that Shell Folk set up. But our other deck is also fairly interesting, TDS, if you want to take this one away.
Yeah, looking at it, it's going to be Trundle by Pokeberry 34. And this is a deck that I was looking a little bit on top of it. It felt kind of familiar in the way that you're trying to be forceful with the damage that you can deal out. It doesn't feel like it's going to be something that you focus on early, but the longer you go, the more you stack up, the better you get with your damaging units. You can get pretty strong attacks later on, and I think that that's something that we're looking to play with. I think particularly with the Trundle to try and get strong attacks later on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we do see the concurrent timelines in here. And
Yeah,
it's always fun to see a concurrent timelines deck because it is just sort of leading full force into that high roll mentality. But with these followers that they've included, they're not leaving that much up to chance. They've included a lot of cards that are very, very strong effects on summon, which then can be transferred into a strong unit through the concurrent timelines, especially the weapon masters that we saw released with Jax. We see the Piltover Castaway in here. You see the Combat Cook. Both of those cards, grant themselves an equipment. The Combat Cook also forges it, but they're also 3 and 4 cost cards that have otherwise really weak stat lines. And with concurrent timelines, you're transforming them into something that is potentially a way stronger unit and equipping them with one of those improvisations. You can see a official
yeah.
whack, the quick attack, all these sort of things. You're just sort of leaning into that. What can I get better while also still getting these super strong effects?
Exactly. And this always feels like these followers that certainly don't have the higher stat lines always feel like units that you're playing for to throw away. Not so much to try and use them aggressively and try and get damage, but more so to utilize them later on so that you don't take a lot of damage and you can have throwaway units that are easier to play around with. But
Mm-hmm.
with having that concurrent timelines like you're saying, it's not like they are completely just going to get thrown away. Like you can actually make better use of them if you get the chance, and it can provide more value to the deck when you really want to get higher value attacks.
Exactly. And we're going to be waiting to see who we're following here between Always Be Gaming Targon and Quag Business. Should be an interesting matchup looking at the rest of the deck list. Obviously there's some Ezreal Seraphine for Quag Business and Always Be Gaming. Can't have Legends of Runeterra in current season without Ezreal Seraphine. But we also see some other things. We see the Misfortune Swain coming back. Swain getting buffed this expansion, getting overwhelmed back on the level up should have been really, really strong. I was expecting to see Sejuani Swain back in full force with that Swain change, but no, I'm glad that we're seeing even more variation since just last week.
Yep. Even I was a lot not going to say a lot, but I was kind of surprised to see Swain rising up that way because even with what he received, I wasn't sure if he was going to get back to the power that we once saw him on. So I wasn't 100% sure, but it's fun seeing the variations that you can add on top of that. And it's not only the Swain, we even get some decks later on that are going to be kind of fun watching if we actually get the chance to see them play. And this is also something that Aegis tournament format provides for us, right? Because since you have to adapt week to week, it's not like you can just stick with one style of playing. You can develop something new specifically for your opponents, for the opponents next week that can be really effective against them, and that also brings a lot of creativity, and that's what we're going to end up seeing this week as well.
And it's been 3 weeks now, 3 weeks, and we're almost through the first few matches of every group. So it should be interesting to see once we get into like the later stages. There is one
Yeah.
more expansion that's coming up with this season of Darken, which should include Aatrox. Interesting to see what happens when that comes out and see how it shakes up the meta because we've fallen pretty deep into the Ezreal Seraphine uh meta. Not even Ezreal Seraphine, even other cards like Karma and Victor have been seen with Seraphine. All of those things getting value out of spell plays. Do and I'm gonna check with Wookie or Hirsch. Do we know who we're seeing in the first matchup? We still do not know who we're seeing in the first
Okay.
matchup, but let's take a look, I guess, TDS and see what we could see from both sides. We see Damien bringing the Akshan, Sivir, Gwen, Timo, and Ezreal Seraphine as usual. Quag Business Caillou are given the Ezreal Seraphine, Echo Zillion, and Pantheon Verse. Echo Zillion, not a deck we've seen in quite some time.
It was. I remember the time that we actually got like the chance to see it in effect. It was quite a while in reality, but it was a fun deck. It is really niche though. It is a really niche deck that needs to meet certain circumstances to be played and even to be played out accordingly. But it's a fan deck if you do get the chance to actually see it
Yeah.
play out.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting deck and very strong once it gets set up. But there's so many things to worry about when you're playing a Zillion, especially with
Yeah.
the Noxus cards that can instant kill it. The Quietus from Shadow Isles. So many threats to that card that needs to stay on the board to level up. And then something else we're seeing a lot of this week from Quag Business is the Pantheon Varus, which is essentially a very similar level up. You need to target your allies, but then Varus also going to go become a huge hitter once it's done with that level up. And then Pantheon, we all know Pantheon.
Yeah, Pantheon feels like doesn't fall off no matter how hard you try. Like he finds his way to squeak in and has quite a bit of value in a lot of these decks. I like the Paris variation though. I think that having two heavy or not heavy hitters, but two cards that can hit accordingly with each other, and I think that adding the Darkins with the Pantheon can be quite interesting. I think that it can provide value to him that maybe other potential areas we're lacking in. And I think that it's going to be fun seeing if it founds full value here. Especially because I think that we're more than likely, well, actually, we're depending on who we see, we are bound to at least get a 50% chance to see the Pantheon Barriers in my eyes.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see just because there
Okay,
are two of them. I'm surprised that there's no Vayne on the side of Quag Business
true.
or on Always Be Gaming Targon. It seems like Vayne has been a pretty popular card with a lot of different variations. You've seen it with Zed, you've seen it with Pantheon, you've seen it with Rumble, you've seen it with Gwen, you've seen it all over the board. But surprisingly, neither team has opted for the Vayne. They've all gone for the Ezreal Seraphine, and then
Which makes
Always
sense.
Be Gaming Targon's brought two Trundle Vi decks and two Heimer Jace decks, and then Ryan Ryan is on Always Be Gaming Target has brought three unique decks to his teammates.
I'm kind of curious if Trundle Buy was maybe an idea against some or some variations of the Bane decks, right? Could be the case since this is something that having two players prepare for it specifically, I think could be looking into the Bane potentially. Now, Bane surprisingly not being here, I do agree it's kind of weird, but I think that it may be players, especially with how we're kind of already halfway into it and going a little bit forward, trying to experiment without the Bane, thinking that maybe there's other decks that couldn't find more value that any deck, that any Bane deck they can play with, and I think that that brings room to think about what other things we may end up seeing later on as well.
Mm-hmm. Still waiting for our first matchup here tonight. It's going between Quag Business and Always Be Gaming Targon. Waiting to find out who specifically we will be
Yeah,
watching,
we
but
need to know.
I think you're right, TDS. I think we're gonna be seeing I think we're gonna be seeing Ezreal Seraphine and Pantheon Varus, no matter what.
Israel Seraphine, it's pretty much on everyone's sides, and it's pretty much on everyone. So it's bound to happen, or at
And here
least
we
it's going to
are.
be banned. I am pretty sure it's banned, but we actually do have the decks now with Pokeberry 34 and Enderlight. I'm really interested in seeing how we go forward with this. Both of them bringing a Heimerdinger deck, but a Heimerdinger variation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and pretty different variations at that. You got the Jace Heimerdinger, which is all about casting big spells, and then you have the Heimerdinger Nora, which is all about just making sure you can summon those turrets, those
Yeah.
techs.
Which I think I particularly have liked more the variation of being able to play with the turrets because in some way it does provide extra utility when you're playing on board. Like not necessarily just depending on the spells, but you have some sort of second look at it with the board value that you can get, and I think that that is still something
Mhm.
positive that you can find with this sort of Hammer Nora deck.
And the Heimer feeds into that Nora level up with the tech,
Yeah,
which is the main strength of that combination, which is very all awesome, always fun to see one card being used in two totally different aspects. But as far as bans go, if you're Pokeberry, I think you're taking Action Sivir or Pantheon Varus because the Seraphine Ezreal wants a little bit of time to set up, and it definitely does not want to be against a very very aggro opponent. And then the Heimer Jace should theoretically be able to handle both those decks, but not both of them.
Yeah, I can see the point there. I'm thinking that Seraphine Israel obviously should be looked into the ban. Thinking from Poke Parry's side, I think that the Action Saber feels like the one I would look into more because I still think
Mhm.
even though Barris Pantheon can be heavy, can hit quite heavily, I think that it takes a little bit more to set up potentially than that of Saber Action, and I think that may be something to look into.
Yeah, and it's always interesting to see what ends up being banned because every player has their preference.
Yeah.
But I think you're right. The Seraphine Ezreal is probably going to be taken away just because how annoying it is to play against. It's so safe, so powerful. If you're underlight though, I don't think you really are worried too much about what gets banned away from you, as long as you take away the Seraphine Ezreal.
I feel like it has variations that I like, and it has a way of playing that it's not too different from each other. So it's not
Mhm.
like if you miss one out, you don't have some similar tools to play with. And I think that for Ender like that it's going to be effective if you're into decks that you really want to play against, like you're bringing up.
Mhm. Exactly, and waiting to see what does end up being banned. Who do you? What do you think they'll lead with TDS?
And so I think always it's always interesting seeing the not the mind games necessarily, but the mindset that a player brings into the pick and ban, right? Because it's not always the strongest meta deck that you feel scared about. It's more so what you feel more comfortable about trying to play against with what you brought out, and that doesn't necessarily mean that you cannot fear the most meta deck, obviously, but you may think that you have the tools, you know how to play against it, you know how to answer accordingly. We may see a situation where the Ezreal or Seraphine is not banned away because yes, it's quite tiresome to play against it, it's quite worrisome, and it can really mess you up. But if you think that you have the tools to deal with it, you can leave it open and try and play against it. And if you lose against that, it's fine. You still have two more games that you can play around with.
Exactly, and I think you brought up a good point, which is you know, all these players have an extensive amount of experience playing against some of these decks, which means they might ban something that they aren't too sure about, like
Yeah.
the Gwen Teemo deck from Damien, which granted is not going to be featured in this matchup, but
We
if
were
you're
hoping
unsure
to
about
see
it,
it,
it's
honestly.
it's it's a valid ban.
Yeah, like the band phase, I think, particularly in Runeterra, and I'm not sure how it works in other card games because I don't have the same like viewing experience as I do with Runeterra, with Legends of Runeterra, but it feels more intricate than that of just comparing it to its big brother League of Legends. You have to think about more so than just what's strong, what you think you can fight against, because in this kind of games, obviously we always talk about RNG and all that, but the strengths of your decks are not necessarily so overloaded, or from the enemy team are not so overloaded that you cannot find an angle to win. So I think that there's always opportunities for you to play around with it if if you're a good enough player and you know that and you think that you can play so I think that this makes for more advanced situations in a lot of fan phases.
Mhm. As we wait, are we experiencing a technical difficulty, Wookie?
They are just taking they really want to think about it. They want to be 100% sure what they are banning away.
100% sure. Yeah, I'm sure there's a little bit of discussion going on about what is the best ideas and what angles are best to take. But with that, I think we'll take a short intermission while the players figure everything out and get back into the banning phase. right, and we are back into the banning phase. We see the first ban from Always Be Gaming Targon. We see the Pantheon Varus taken off the board. So one of the two decks we were thinking would be the priority from Pokeberry TDS.
Yeah, attacking that Pantheon Barriers. It was one of the potential heavy hitters that we were worrying about, and it gets banned away. But on the other side, it is the
Wow.
Heimerdinger Jace, not the Seraphine Senna, so the Seraphine Ezreal. So really thinking about that, maybe he has a better chance to try and play against Seraphine Ezreal and has better answers.
Yeah, the Heimerdinger's Jace deck is definitely all about board clear, but the Seraphine Ezreal deck also somewhat to that extent is as well, but not to the power that Jason and Heimerdinger can eventually pull out. So I can see see where they're coming from as far as not banning the Seraphine Ezreal, because you do basically get a free win with that with
Yep.
or Sivir Action, or not free, but definitely is a very straightforward deck to play into a Seraphine Ezreal. But the concurrent timelines Trundle Vi definitely scares me a little bit more than I think the Jace Heimerdinger, just because of the upper potential of getting good rolls out of that concurrent timelines onto your cards.
And it feels like one of the best answers, which was the Barriers Pantheon, ends up getting banned against the Trundle
Mhm.
Vi. So feels like a really smart approach by Pokeberry as well, and can end up working out so good for him. I want to see how effective can the Living Open, the Seraphine Ezreal end up being. Not necessarily because it's super broken or anything like that, but because now if you do end up winning with that deck, you also get potentially two chances to win out with the Trundle Vi. And like you're pointing out, it's a deck that brings quite a lot of risks if you're facing it and you don't have the right tools to answer it accordingly.
Exactly, and exactly. I mean, the concurrent timelines just has so much potential value. Like just being able to drop that card, get the summon proc or the summon effect, and then turn that into something else that is potentially stronger is just so worrisome to me. But maybe Underlight's ready for it. Maybe Underlight knows knows what to expect as we get into the first match of the Action Sivir into the concurrent timelines Trundle Vi.
Interesting start. I think I like what Underlike feels to be starting with. Quite a good draw, and obviously you always want to try and get down that action as soon as possible if you're playing
Mhm.
around with it accordingly. And I think that that's exactly what Underlike would try and go for. I think Poke Barry does have good setup, but he's really wanting to try and get that concurrent timeless as soon as possible as well.
Yeah, and surprisingly, I don't think Pokeberry mulliganed his whole hand, but there it is. There's a concurrent timeline, so it doesn't matter.
Perfect. Everything's working out as intended.
There it is. Who needs the good mulligan when you can just pull two concurrent timelines back to back?
Scores to settle.
Yeah, the mulligan is overvalued. You just need to draw better. Draw better,
Oh,
that's
and
it.
there's the instant mystic shot at the action. You
I
love
like
to
this.
see
I,
it.
I really like that. Controlling the action really early on, taking it out as soon as possible to not allow for it to really get set up time or anything like that. And
Mhm.
yes, it may have gotten out the the landmark value anyway, but it's still good that you're getting rid of the action as soon as possible as well.
Yeah, one less action to worry about, and you're getting it while there's no possible way for
Yeah.
Underlight to save it. That's the best time to get rid of it is before it becomes a problem. And then we're finally getting the concurrent timelines out. Turn 4, likely to see this combat cooked on get dropped. So get the forged weapon or the forged equipment. Oh, let's see. There was the tough and the rake. Oh, they go for the rake. Oh,
Ooh.
on the terror. That is an interesting card. That is definitely something that is fun. And that's what we're seeing the power is from. The combat cook is a 2/2 card, and it made itself a 2/1 equipment, and now there's an 8/7 unit on the board.
It's just so much value that you can immediately out of that. Now, trying to salvage a little bit the situation on the right, I like how he's trying to play around with it and now even forcing for a potential block to just get rid of the card as soon as possible. But it is still, you can really see the power that these concurrent timelines can just bring in these sort of matchups.
And like that's probably the greatest example is,
Yeah.
Combat Cook makes you an upgraded equipment and goes from a 2-2 to a 5 a 5-6 unit or a 6-6 unit. So that's just insane. That is some value. And
You still have the potential to play with even higher value later on. So
hmm
it's going to be really fun seeing it.
hmm Now there is 2 mana in Pokeberry, and Cube is and Underlight has the action on hand, but there is a thermogenic beam. It's not necessarily safe to play the action yet. It's probably best to just wait for the action or the level up to go off once
Yeah.
the landmarks countdown. Oh, or it's free now. It's you summon the action. Go for it. Get that free.
Interesting decision. Maybe waiting until the end to really pull it off, since you
Yeah.
just saw the thermogenetic. You don't know what else may end up coming out to kill the action once again. So waiting until this last moment
Wow.
doesn't go for it.
Yeah, there still is one more. Even if the action was something, there's still one more countdown left, which means there
Yeah.
is still this turn that the action could be taken care of prematurely. So wait for the level up. There's nothing you're really losing right now. You haven't lost any health. You're up 8 damage onto the opponent as we see the quick attack Arachnoid Sentry coming down. That's not the greatest example of the concurrent timelines value, but still it goes from
It's
a 2-1 to a 3-2. So
exactly, it's good damage anyway. So you always value it coming out if you can make the most out of
yeah.
it.
Yeah, and surprisingly, there's not too much that Underlight can do. They drop the Ruin Runner, but this is you know saving all of your health potentially. Oh, that's
Be a
nice.
risky attack.
Yeah. I think you. Oh, I was gonna say if you're Underlight, you let the first one through. Oh, or yeah.
Okay.
If you're not looking to trade the Ruin Runner, then you definitely go for this play with the Rolling Death. But I was going to say maybe you let the first attack through and then go for the second attack, or wait for the second attack to come out and then use Rolling Death to kill the Sentry and block and trade with the Ruin Runner. But the 6-3 overwhelm is just such a powerful card that saving it is probably the better use of your 5 health of the Nexus.
I'm pretty sure you want to use it as well with the moment that you lay down the next action to try and get a
Mhm.
beefier attack. So makes sense to try and salvage it and try and play around this overwhelm as well.
Ooh.
It
The
is
Spinning
really good.
Glaive. Or the Swinging Glaive is a new card that came out with the equipments, and it's so powerful with, Action, I think, besides the 3-3 equipment that you would get from a landmark countdown, probably one of the best equipments in Shurima because of the Lucky Find generation, which can give you such good value to whatever you end up using the Lucky Find on.
I think, like you're pointing out with the action, really can find. I was thinking the might, just because of having that extra overwhelm, may end up working out super nice.
Yeah.
And yeah, the extra overwhelm just feels really good to have as well.
Yeah, and now is the best time to, I guess, go for this big attack, especially because you've seen a lot of clear get used from Pokeberry. Obviously, you still have to look out because it is a Piltover deck, but this is the best time to drop the action. Get the big
Yeah.
attack out, get the new landmark on the board. Look for a good attack.
Exactly. Like, it just makes a lot of sense to try and force it out, and it's not like keeping it in your bench anyway. It's going to be better or worse. So I think that, like you're pointing out, the timing was just right, and you can get a pretty good attack this time around thanks to this action as well.
Now, I still don't think it's safe enough for you to go for the action attack here, because it is Piltover, it is Freljord still. Still, these regions have so many answers for an attacker, whether it's killing it with damage from Piltover or using the Troll Chant that's in Pokeberry's hand.
Takes the
You
full
could have
brunt of
looked for
it.
the kill onto one of these units.
Do you like? Are you comfortable with this? You can take this over here. Are you
Good
comfortable
help.
with taking so much damage? Honestly,
I I don't know if that was the right choice because you know that the next turn, the next attack from Underlight is going to be just as big. What is
Yep.
your goal? What is your method for clearing this board? You know, getting rid of the Ruin Runner, who you already know has Overwhelm, being worried about a level up action on Absolver Redeemer Overwhelm. You know, now that we have Underlight, Underlight was predicting and chose the Sivir and has Might, and I'm pretty sure they're close to the level up for Sivir. So every card is going to have Quick Attack and Overwhelm. So you need to find something big right now.
Yeah, it's pretty much on this timing for the side of Barry to be able to pull it off, because it feels like next turn everything seems set up perfectly for Underlight.
And that's
Blade,
The
sand,
Sivir.
and treasure. Couldn't ask for more.
interesting. One of the options was Tiana Crown Guard
Yeah.
for the transformation, but we've gone with the 7/7 Yordles as we go for another combat cook.
A good fight's the spice of
Yeah, the
life.
Sandworm element. Or no, oh, they went for the combat reel. Get some extra.
Precision actually.
This is a good attack, you know, getting rid of the Ruin Runner, but it's like almost too. I don't know. Is it? It's not almost too late. The Whirling Death definitely helps. The Whirling Death is definitely very good, but it's almost not enough because you have the 4-cost double Frostbite in hand,
Yeah.
and you
But
can. Both of those are going to go onto the Sivir because the Spell Shield eats one, and then she's still the strongest unit at 6/4.
yeah.
And then you still don't have the spell shield broken to use the troll chant, so you're still
Yep.
losing the Trundle here. There's nothing you can do to really save it.
Feels like the decision works out great if the Sivir is not in board on board. Like if you
Yeah.
were doing this same decision without the Sivir there, I think that it works out nice.
Pots a boiling.
Still a good attack though. Like it's quite a bit, and yeah, the defense may come through, but you're still taking quite a bit of damage off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is interesting. Yeah, I like the block with the Action just because, you know, clear more health off of the 9/8 Yordle, because, you know, you do have to attack with Sivir next turn no matter what, and you're going to have the Dark Enthrall on your board as an extra attacking unit. Trying to figure out how this gets turned around, because, you know, you have 2 health. You need to find 2 damage onto Pokeberry. Okay, all right. There's yeah, okay.
Waited so long to
That's a pretty good method.
That could
Now,
certainly work out.
yeah. Now, what do you do with the Sentinel's Horde? Because you have to look out for the double Frostbite and Trundle being on board with 7 health. How do you guarantee that you get 2 damage? Oh yeah, you give all your enemies vulnerable, and then you
I
just
think that answers.
you choose the two health blockers, and then you win.
Pretty good decision, yeah. Forcing the issue onto Pokeberry, and
And then you
now
give
the
yourself
difference.
might, and that's it. Oh, I figured you'd give yourself might, but I guess you can wait for the troll chain to come out.
Cool, yeah. Yeah.
Wow, didn't even need the might.
It was all just part of the mind games at the end with that force spot. We see the power coming in from the action saver. We talked about how strong this deck is, has been for quite a while, still is until today, and it gets a pretty good victory.
Yeah, and you know that's really good for Underlay, because that means that with the other matches that have gone on, I have the update. It is 0-1 or Belcoot 0, Damien 1. So that's Quagminus is 1. Ryan and Kyogre are 1-1, so that's 2-1 in favor
Yep.
of Quag Business. And then now there's the win from Underlight. So it's 3-1 in favor of Quag Business right now. So this is a huge win for them, just guaranteeing that they're still in the lead. And if if Underlight can take this game and make it 2-0, there's virtually, no way, not virtually, but it's a very hard fought match or hard fought path to get back in the lead for Always Be Gaming Targon, because you'll be very up in the ranking if you 2-0 this, and if Damien can find the 2-0, and then Brian and Kyle can find their second win that they need, this will be a very easy win for Quag Business, and they need it because they're very low on the ranking in their
Exactly.
They're 2 and 3 right now, I think, which makes them 4th in the group of 5.
Those are maths. I'm not good with that, so I'm not going to jump into that.
They definitely need the wins. Is the end message of this?
We have an
As we
athlete.
see, Underlight finds all 3 Noras, which honestly not as bad as it could have been.
Okay, that's one down. See, but there's the value. You have, yeah, one is down, but I still have two. You don't know this, but I do. Also, we need to mention it is against, once again, the Trundle buy, so it's really trying to take it out. Sometimes we do see when the change into the other deck, so surfing Ezreal, we may not even get a chance to see it if Underlight wins this.
Yeah, Underlight.
I know you've been
This might be the opportunity for Pokeberry, because Underlight has both Noras. There is still the Thermo Beam in Pokeberry's hand, which I assume you hold on to for the next Nora, or the Heimerdinger.
I think that you have to keep those value cards against the most important ones, so I think that you're winning a little bit on that.
Yeah, and luckily for Underlight, though, is there's no concurrent timelines for Pokeberry yet. They were unable to find it. And I'm surprised that I didn't really get to see the mulligan too well, but I don't think Pokeberry got rid of their whole hand to find the concurrent.
I don't think he did either. No, I think it was just 2 cards out. Not sure which ones were 8, but yeah.
Which, definitely doesn't matter too much given the value that the Weapon Masters already give you, but I feel like concurrent timelines would still be worthwhile. And then you see the Nora drop and a Thermal Beam to immediately take it out. That's 2 Noras down. There's one more in Underlight's hand. It's the last Nora, though. The last one. And then another Vengeance.
Cup of tea?
He goes for it. So he has to be betting that there's absolutely nothing that can stop him. But there's the concurrent timelines we were asking for, or that Barry was asking for, pretty much.
Yeah, what are the odds that there's another there's another clear in Pokeberry's hand? 3 Noras? No one kills Underlight's 3rd Nora.
Until they do.
Yeah, oh, the Vi
Until
drop.
it happens.
The Vi drop. That's interesting. That's a quick vengeance next turn, if I've ever seen
Yeah,
one.
pretty much.
And then there's the concurrent timelines.
Whoa, no, look at, can we look at Pokeberry's hand 1 second, please?
Yeah, there's a Thermo. There's another Thermo. That's it. There's
That's
no more
it.
Noras in the game. No Noras.
That is, that is a pretty good way to start for Pokeberry.
What's going to happen? Oh, I was gonna say what's going to happen is Pokeberry's going to try and clear the Nora with the Vi first. Vi's going to get Vengeanced, and then they're gonna see the Thermo.
Yeah, I think that would make the most sense.
So, well, we're not gonna see the Thermo this round anymore. Oh, Kinko Lifeblade! Kinko Lifeblade! That's the card. That's the card with the Scout. Oh,
Wait, he went for the
not the Lifeblade?
interesting decision.
I think the Lifeblade was definitely the move. Elusive Lifesteal Scout is pretty strong in terms of keeping you alive. You already have huge hitters on your board.
Yeah.
The Kiku Lifeblade definitely gives you a lot more opportunity for, playing around what cards Underlight might summon, or going for a attacker or blocker for the Nora and not even have to worry about the Thermo anymore. Definitely interesting to go for the Void Blaster, but I can still see it. I can still understand why, because once you do summon enough equipments, the Evolve will kick in. But still, the Kenku Lifelink has elusive and lifesteal. Once you kill this last Nora, there's not a lot of elusive cards anymore.
Yeah, it just feels like it would have made the most sense if you actually get the value out of that. Nora attacks immediately, but it should be a while. It shouldn't be too late before she just gets completely destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
Still, the setup that Pokeberry has, I actually really like. With we already know that timeline concurrent timelines is down, so the value that he can get in the next couple of turns, especially now with the third Nora going down, can be quite good for Pokeberry.
Yeah, and you know, honestly, you might see the Zonite Urchin discard the shepherd equipment because you know there's not really too much value from having a card that can't block on your board. So here comes the vengeance, and we're gonna see the 2-cost thermo being used on Nora. Unfortunately, there it is.
Bye bye.
Goodbye, Nora. You're dead now. Nothing can hurt you. Rip Nora.
It was good while it lasted. It's what I want to believe, but in reality, it wasn't.
Honestly, I'm surprised that they didn't save. Or I guess not. The vengeance was the right call. You know, make sure that the Trundle can't level up. Still doesn't change the fact that there's going to be a Rasa the Sunderer here, which is a pretty strong card for for you to summon randomly. And
Really looking like that.
I think you have to see the mini morph here onto the Rasa.
Would there be any reason to save it just in case, like for anything else? In
The
hand,
Vi,
maybe.
the Vi, but the Vi still has to,
Level
you
up.
know, like the Vi still has to strike something to deal 10 or to deal 5 damage through it, but there's nothing on your board or in your deck like normally that I think they could block the Rasa that's a fearsome or the 5/4 fearsome cook either. The Mist's Call would have been nice to have a different round, you know, when one of your Noras died, but the give the weakest ally can't die. There's nothing in this hand there's nothing in this manifest that is really that good.
I think the safe, not the safest, but the logical option feels like.
The Pursuit of Perfection was in that as an option, but that card is a little too interesting, too late for this to really matter. But they go for the Most Wanted instead, and
Interesting decision with the Most Wanted. Oh,
well, it does give them a free unit summon, I think. So it does make a little bit of sense. Unfortunately,
does it get affected with the concurrent timelines, by the way?
what I don't think it does. I think Concurrent Time is
Okay.
just the first unit played.
Yeah, because if it
That's
did,
why
I think then it makes much more sense then.
Yeah. Maybe they just chose it as something for the Zonite Urchin to discard.
True. But here comes
I
a
don't
big
think
attack
there's
though.
going to be much living past this one because there's 2 fearsome units on the board as well as a 9/5 overall. Otherwise, going to take it down. Go 1/1 in this series with Pokeberry, which means this is very, very important for Pokeberry because Damien, as an update, Damien has 2-0'd Belcoot, and Kyogre has 2-1'd Ryan. So they're now 4-1 in the other match for Quagmires. But Underlight is 1-1 now. So Underlight needs to take this win to give them a solid lead over Always Be Gaming Targon. Because like we've mentioned, playoffs coming up no matter what. Playoffs are soon. You need every win you get. And Quag Business needs them more than other teams. And we're going to
100%.
finally see the Ezreal Seraphine and the Nora. The concurrent timelines found its win.
Importantly, I think after what happened with all those Noras last game, I think that there was very little that Underlight could find to try and turn around things. So it was just a kind of go next angle in a way.
No, there's 2 Noras. They found 2 of them.
It's a good start. It's not 3, but it's 2.
Not 3. No, that was definitely an unfortunate start to find all 3 of your Noras basically in your mulligan. And, you know, if you were able to keep the Nora alive, having Portal Paloozas is really good. But, you know, there's so much clear in Pokeberry's hand. And there's the
Again?
Mystic Shot. Top deck Mystic Shot, no more Nora.
Underlight hasn't had the
Honestly, you
best of
glimpse.
lucks with
I feel like
this.
you glimpse if you're Underlight. Find something. Find more cards.
Yeah, at least try and make it so that you go for
Waddling away.
you go for it. Hammerdinger, really, getting the hammer not bad. In all honesty,
No, because that's really what you need for this deck to
exactly.
be useful. Because the Heimer is how you level up the Nora, and then Nora gives you good cards eventually. But Heimer also just helps you stall out the game with free units. You're still having more units to summon. Because this deck is primarily spells. You're looking for created cards for Nora's level up. It's literally 3 Noras, 3 Heimerdingers, 3 Conchologists, and 3 Junk Constructs. So you literally need Heimers, just so you have units on the board to block with.
Need to have the
the very
consistency of that. Now, I was trying to see. I'm a little bit surprised that it was a double up that was taken, maybe to deal more damage later on if you get the combo going right. But I was expecting to see much more of a revive just in case.
Yeah. Maybe. Hate Spike is still so good. Look, such a good card. I'm surprised that they didn't go for it, because they would have been able to get the Hate Spike to summon a they're not Thrall. They're a Husk. Summon a Husk, excuse me. And that Husk could have high rolled a spell shield that you could have used to protect your Nora.
I get now why he went for the double up. I understand.
Yeah, the double up is extra damage onto the Nexus. There's your third Nora, as well as a the site or the why can't I remember the name of this card? It's whatever.
There's
It's
a lot of
2/3
cards,
because
it's
your
fine.
top unit 1/1 when you when you play a spell. But there's only so many units left in this deck. The pass from Underlight, the smart move. You don't want to play another Nora and have it be
Yeah,
cleared
I think
instantly.
after everything that has happened, you pretty much don't want to risk anymore, just in case.
And there we go, the fearsome fan club president. Nothing more scary in this universe than the fan
Look at
club.
that art. You can clearly see the eyes of rage in here, or them.
the unkempt fanaticism.
Hey, you would be surprised how scary some fanatics can be.
Now I'm surprised we haven't seen the Heimerdinger yet, but also I'm not surprised because this Ezreal Seraphine deck is just full of clear. And looking at Pokeberry's hand, I don't see a way that you get a unit on the board and it stays there.
Okay, so he got at least another hammer, so you can kind of see the argument now.
But there's still the disintegrate, as we see the sad Poro come out for the fan club president. But I was gonna say there's still no way this Heimerdinger lives, because there's the harp spell in Pokeberry's hand. There's 2 disintegrates. There's another static shiv. As soon as the Heimerdinger or the Nora hit the board, the Nora is gonna get cleared out by the harp card right now. 100%.
There goes another Nora, it seems then.
All Noras are gone right now. There
Again.
it is. Called it. The violent discord.
Again.
Instant killed. As so sad. Now that should be the Ezreal level up. So we should see the Ezreal come out soon. Hopefully.
Yeah, I feel like it should be the next turn that we see the Ezreal coming out. Now, no sight of Seraphine until they... No, there's no sight of Seraphine, but yeah, the Ezreal should be coming out soon enough. There is a Vengeance though, so could be a threat.
Yeah, there is Vengeance, there is Ruination. Again, that doesn't really matter though, because you have 2 Ezreals. If Underlake opts for the Ruination, which I can't imagine Underlake does until there's a Seraphine and Ezreal on the board. Because you need to clear both those units, and you don't really want to get rid of the sparse units that you were able to summon.
Which are of little quantity to say the least.
Mm-hmm. And now we've seen Underlake just pass like for 2 rounds now, waiting for the opportunity to play his Heimerdinger. But now we see the Heimerdinger come out,
Goes for it.
but it's too late. There's Ezreal and Seraphine in Pokeberry's hands. So you're gonna see the Seraphine drop, level up, the Ezreal drop, level up, and then we're gonna see the disintegrate, static shiv, and that's 6 damage to the Nexus, plus whatever else Seraphine creates if she creates a targeting spell.
So could be much more. Just wait for it. It's bound to come. Right now, though, like the Heimerdinger, like you're pointing out, I feel like could have been something to pull out earlier, and maybe even just takes away from the risk of getting your Nora killed.
Yeah, and even if it doesn't take away from your Nora getting killed, you can spare, you can consume some of this clear before the Ezreal comes out. Like right now, we're
Yeah.
seeing the Ezreal being like denied free hits to the Nexus.
Pretty much. Pretty much it's just like that.
And we're seeing two turrets. The only survivors of Underlate's whole board.
Well, there is
Oh.
something else.
The broken down Slumbot, whatever it's called. It's a rough life for that card.
The cards. Just in case. Like both sides have. Well, actually, there is quite a bit of clear on Underlight's side, so maybe he can get rid of a lot of potential Ezreal and Seraphine risk when they do come out.
And that's where we're at, I guess. TDS is like we're in this stalemate of that Underlight only has so many units, and that Underlight's played about most of those units, so the rest of Underlight's deck is just clear.
Pretty much.
But you do need to get the Ezreal and Seraphine on the board so that you are able to get to this like kill. Like you need to get the win. You need damage onto the Nexus. You need Ezreal on the board to do that.
It's kind of. Do you play off of waiting for mana to run out, or do you just wait until they use their things? And I'm not sure what is going to come first, if I'm honest. Could be both. Could be neither. Really.
And Underlight's just been collecting black spears at this rate.
discoveries await below.
Oh,
Hey,
I
you
would
went
have
for something new.
guessed to go for another black spear, but you already have 2. I guess that's good enough. That's a good enough number.
But 3 is better than 2.
3 is better than 2, but you have to remember it costs 3 mana for a black spear, but it costs 1 for the group shot.
That's true.
As we see the Ezreal coming down on the board. Quietus. Yep. Quietus. Goodbye. Goodbye, Ezreal.
There is the first. Still another Ezreal in hand. Obviously, we know that.
Yeah. And that's sort of where like these two decks meet up, is like they are both super clear heavy, except Underlight needs Nora to be on board to win, whereas Pokeberry just eventually needs to have an Ezreal stick.
Okay,
have it
Certain doesn't have the level up yet, though. I thought she was going to get it.
I think she levels up with one of these new spells in hand. You know, whether it's the blade. I think it has to be the blade's edge. Because you want to save that Nami's the ebb and flow. You want to save that ebb and flow because that's 3 spells. 3 spells that Seraphine will dupe once she levels up.
Yeah, I think that would be the most logical approach here with the amount of low health units that you're going against as well.
Yeah, and what I think Pokeberry was afraid of with using a card to kill something was, getting those black spears, because that's when this black spear becomes lethal for Seraphine.
Yeah.
But you still need to hit the level up. I guess you're waiting for next turn, dropping the Ezreal. But as soon as you drop the Ezreal, I think you see Underlight use the Ruination. That's what the Ruination is for, is to clear 2 important cards off of Pokeberry's board at once.
Pretty much.
And, at this rate, Underlight has nothing to lose. Underlight's against the wall here.
They've already kind of lost a lot.
They've managed to, build this large board. Now, this could be big. This could be big. This could be a big moment for for Underlight. You know,
So
you
can
have,
Underlight turn around the game with that ruination if the Ezreal does come out?
I
It's my
don't.
main question.
I'm actually gonna change my mind. I don't think Underlight wants to play the Ruination. I think if
Okay.
the Ezreal comes out, you
you'd never
Vengeance.
ask.
I think
The
if the
Ezreal.
Ezreal comes out, you Vengeance, because you have the wider board. You have the wider board, which forces the Seraphine to have to do something. And there we see the level up.
Now let's really bring it.
And they that was a really smart play from Pokeberry. They saved the Blade's Edge because it is a targeted spell and used the drum solo to level her up, to level the Seraphine up. So now all of these cards in hand should do double procs. But there's not enough mana. There's not enough mana for Ezreal.
He has a one here, right? If he wants to use it now, but Israel is still there.
Can... Who? What I think what Pokeberry goes for, I think Pokeberry goes for the Seraphine spell. The Wow. I was gonna say I think you go for the Seraphine spell and then you can clear out, you know, like two of these units on Underlight's board and still get, you know, 4 damage onto the Nexus for 2 mana.
You didn't use the last Israel there. Now there is still one more Israel, so maybe banking on getting that, but there's still enough to clear it out.
Yeah. This is an interesting match going back and forth between two very
It's not what I
controlled.
expected to see, if I'm honest.
Yeah. Yeah, there's the higher dinger. It's going to be elusive. And I think you go for just another attack here. Like you have the
I think he
hand.
does.
Oh, there's another junk. There we go. That's a good attack. That forces the Seraphine to block the 6/6 or do something to kill it, which honestly is going to take the Disintegrate and the Blade's Edge. So that spares it. That spares 6 damage, which you have to do, and you still have to block with the Seraphine. Or
There's so much commitment that you have to do to survive here. Or to negate here.
And
There is that.
and the worst part of this is you're using your Seraphine ability on like spells that you need to win. Well, I guess
Pretty much.
two.
Feels like the kind of angle that you never want to face because it's not proactive, it's reactive. And it doesn't beneficiate with the Seraphine that much.
Yeah,
Even
so
if
now,
you do get the kills here.
now we see the
Engines don't determine themselves.
wow, that is a lot of clear actually. That
Yep.
is. Wow, so it's clearing the Conchologist, the Heimerdinger, and the 6/6, which is definitely interesting. Huh. But now you've just lost the value of duping those spells when you do hopefully eventually find your Ezreal.
Yeah, would force it so that you have to wait a little bit longer for really being able to force it out. Yeah, I was thinking if he's going to force with double here to kill the Seraphine.
Yeah, that makes the most sense because, you know, Underlight has gone to the point where Underlight has the board control. Underlight has more units on board. Get rid of the Seraphine.
Yep.
No more spell dupe, and then hopefully your junk construct and you find your final Heimerdinger. Or a
Nope.
mini morph, because you're going to have to use the mini morph immediately as soon as the Ezreal comes down. Oh, that's good for Underlight. Now that we've seen Pokeberry pulled both Ravenous Flocks, which means you can't really use those to target anything Underlight has because they're all full health. Now with the stun, you can use the Ravenous Flock. You still need the Ezreal to come out. And there's no opportunity for the Ezreal to come out because it immediately gets mini morph.
Yep. Go. Oh, I really like that one.
Yeah, that's a good choice. Mark of the Isles gives you 2 ephemeral, which means you can block that fearsome Arachnoid Sentry. But here's the Ezreal instant mini morph. Instant mini morph.
Not instant, but yeah, it should be. It's not instant, but it's going to come out. Like you have the Knights Israel, yeah, and obviously you don't want to use Renation.
And the downside is that Underlight keeps losing board, and I haven't been keeping too much track, but I don't think there's that many units left in in Underlight's deck.
I would be
There's
willing
Quietus.
to bet that he doesn't have that many units in board in deck.
And then we're gonna the Quietus to destroy the equipment. Fearsome is the biggest threat to Underlight's only unit because it means you can't block it at all. And then we're going to see the Hookmaster come out, improvise into
Jack said there'd be
probably the
contenders
quick
out there.
attack. That makes sense. You know, keep that unit alive. Keep
Yeah,
that
it's still
unit.
forcing out the damage and a potential crit attack, so makes complete sense to me. Vengeance again. So commits for every nation here, which makes sense to me because you're in a spot where you cannot allow for Pokeberry to be that well poised. So
Let's change the
Seraphine, you
world.
still have the vengeance. Yeah, but you have to use it next time. Oh.
Oh man, this is
Get
so
your
4/5
dancing
Seraphine
shoes.
gets the
Sing
attack.
it with me now.
Gets 4 damage off. That means we're at 7. You need 2 more attacks on Seraphine. Oh wait. Can that do it? I don't think that can. I don't think that kills. Does it really?
No, I think it doesn't.
Wow.
Or is it actually? Wait, he does!
It does. Wow. Wow. The ebb and flow coming in
Seraphine,
fucked up.
Israel, everybody.
Wow. That the exact amount of mana required
Yeah.
and pulling the ebb and flow as the Seraphine new card created. Holding on to that to the last second and turning it around. That game got very, very close. It didn't look too good, but then Underlay was able to turn it back around, find the larger board with the wider setup, and then excuse me, I'm blanking on the name. The Pokeberry,
Yeah.
Pokeberry was able to pull it back and clear the units, keep clearing the units, and then eventually find the win with the third Seraphine and the ebb. You know, ebb and flow being able to dupe every single time it was played, and having enough mana to do it exactly. It literally ran out of mana on the last turn, but it able to find. You know, it did what like it did over 7 damage to kill the
Yeah,
next
with repetition it did.
with like 4 mana.
It was like you did say that, like it was exact. It had the exact mana to be able to pull off the play at the end, and it worked out. It's those kind of things where you have to be careful about holding a card long enough that it can be worth it, but not long enough that it cannot be. That it just goes completely to waste. And at the end, it favors Barry. But looking at it on Anderslight's side, because I think that he played really well with what was happening for him. He lost once again at the start, Denora's. It was looking kind of hard with how he needed to manage most of the things. And he did a pretty good job denying Ezreals, denying Seraphines, but at the end, it's simply not enough. It's the how complicated it can be going against that Seraphine Ezreal.
And you know, it I want to say it came down to like the deck lists, but it was just an unfortunate, you know, the Ezreal Seraphine is just a better control deck. I think at this in this stage with this expansion, this patch, the Ezreal Seraphine does, I mean, like everything the Nora Heimerdinger deck is looking to do,
Yeah.
while also still having units in your deck. And you know, that is one of the more important things because the 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 Heimer Nord deck was able to go wide for a second, but it
Yeah.
still just didn't matter. You couldn't get your Heimerdinger on the board. Your Nora dropped, instantly killed, or killed as soon as it changed turns. As soon as Pokeri got mana, the Nora was killed instantly. The Heimerdinger, as soon as there was enough mana to kill the Heimerdinger, gone. Disintegrate, OP AF, probably the best card in that deck because it
Yeah, pretty much.
guarantees that you can insta kill any unit really.
And
Disintegrate. Sorry, go TDS, go.
No, just to add, because to me it felt like what the plan that Underlight went with was much more focused towards winning against Trundle by than to winning against Seraphine Ezreal. Not because it's not like it wasn't close and it could have worked out against Seraphine Ezreal, but the setup that it was that was accomplished against Trundle by felt like it was the main game plan. And when you kind of lost track on that, it was a last ditch effort to win against a objectively better control deck in this matchup, and at the end it wasn't enough, even though it was a good try.
Mm-hmm. And that's the end of it. It was a good try by both players.
Yep.
Underlight came out swinging in the first match, won that one fairly handily, and then the Nora Heimer deck was very very like slow paced and came down to it basically both times. Both times it was sort of like, oh, it's almost Underlight, it's almost set up, but then Pokebear is able to like pull it back or seal the deal with the concurrent timelines and just the sheer amount of clear in the Ezreal Seraphine deck.
Yeah, it was the kind of playstyle that you were opting into that could have worked out amazingly. At the end, it doesn't, but it's still a victory overall for the side of quite. I want to say the name, but I'm scared that I will botch it. Quack Business. Okay. Yeah, it was still an overall victory for Quack Business. So even though it didn't scale them much more in the points wise, it was still a pretty good job. 2-0, 2-1, and 1-2-1 loss. So overall, not bad.
Yeah, no, it's still a very very good showing for Quagbiz. One that they needed a lot. Being
Yeah.
able to get the the wins because they are low in the standings. Playoffs coming up, but with that, we will take a quick intermission before we come back with the next series for today between who is it TDS? Who's next?
I'm gonna quickly watch it out because I'm not 100% sure.
The
Thank you,
Puffcat Peddlers
production. Yeah,
and
Popcat Peddlers, and Wobbly Hydra.
there
Yes.
we go. That's who we'll be back with after this short intermission. What's up, everyone? TDS and Domcast back with the next match of the Aegis Esports Legends of Runeterra League Week 3. Week 3. We're seeing the matchup between Wombly Hydra and TDS.
Wobbly Hydra and quickly seeing because I actually didn't forget Puffed peddlers. I just want to say PovCap peddlers. I just want to say they used the greenest color possible. So on the gray background of this card, it's actually unreadable. Whoever did this, most likely Hirsch, should get a should try and change it out.
Yeah, good old Hirsch. Figure something out, man. But we're going to go straight into the first match, or the first deck that we're highlighting from Wobbly Hydra, Katarina Yasuo. You want to walk us through this, TDS?
This is something that I wasn't expecting at all to see, if I'm gonna be honest. It's a Yasuo deck that might actually work out really nicely. And I'm really excited to see it working out. So it has the Katarina Yasuo, obviously, a lot of value coming in from the stuns and the potential recalls as well. But I think that it has a lot of value in the spells as well. Like you can get so much done with just the straight up value that the spells bring for this Yasuo, and then the creation that Katarina can bring to just try and kill your opponent not necessarily as soon as possible, but it can deal a lot of damage to the opponent as well as the units. It's like your board when you go against this deck is not going to be as consistent as you may expect it to be.
You know, Katarina Yasuo is one of those decks that we saw back on Foundations, and the release of the game was one of the really strong decks. And with the changes, with people realizing how strong Rally is, Katarina's come back in a
Yep.
great fashion. You know, we've seen her in a couple of different decks. You know, the dreaded Gwen Cat instant or infinite cycle attack, always fun. But you know, this is a really good control deck. If you're able to keep the Yasuo on the board, you know, get the Katarina going, it can be a really strong win into some of these weaker decks that like to have units on that need the units on the board, like the Ezreal Seraphine. You know, as a great example.
Yeah, overall, I think that it has nice balance in ways that maybe Yasuo needed the most to try and be as viable as possible.
Mhm.
I think that against certain decks that not necessarily rely on units, but that you want to have certain units on board, I think that this deck can find a lot of value. The consistent stuns can be so
Mhm.
tiresome to deal with as well.
Yeah, and interestingly, most of the stuns are like in spells for Monte Cristo. You know, you don't see the stage hand, which is always a popular card in the Yasuo deck. There's the Arachnoid Sentry is there obviously, but the stage hand I'm surprised is missing because it is a very strong card to have during an attacking turn. You know, get the stun and have a 4/2 unit for the attack.
Yeah.
But, you know, obviously Monte Cristo has different things in mind and, you know, definitely is a good player. So it'll be interesting to see what they go through. As you look at the Puffcat Peddlers, Prodigy, bring in the Swain MF. And that's a card that we were talking about earlier. Swain got a buff this expansion. Gets the overwhelm on level up. And
Well,
this is another Pirates deck, but with Swain instead of GP or TF or what have you.
we were talking about this right at the start, like the Swain getting that buff being more possible in multiple decks, finding a lot of value. And in here we can see how strong it can be with the Misfortune. I'm really interested in seeing how effective can we end up seeing this deck coming through. And I just want to see the barrage of attacks that it can provide.
Should be a really simple deck for the Swain to hit the level up with as well, just because, you know, Krusty Codger hurts itself twice. It takes away
Yeah.
2 health from itself. That's 2 towards the level up for Swain. The MF ability. Any unit that does damage to you, that's one thing. So it's upwards of a potential 6 damage in one attack from MF. You know, the Legion Saboteur, that's 1 damage. The Watchful Idol damaging itself to summon or to spawn the tentacles, that counts. Fortune Croaker, that counts. All these cards just push towards that Swain level up, and it's such a strong card on level up with the overwhelm now, because even if something blocks it, even if something is able to beat the Fearsome, if Swain damages through it, it's still gonna get that ability off.
Yeah, overall, you can really see that the setup that the Swain wants to try and get out is going to be found here. I don't want to say consistently, but I think that it's the best word to fit it out, right? Like you think that in almost each matchup that you go against, at least you can be ready for the Swain to not only level up but find a lot of value.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And you know, it's so fun to see as we get into the first matchup. Monte Cristo and Max got the tracks, 2 insanely skilled players. And this is the Vayne deck that we were expecting to see in the earlier matchup, but finally on this one, we see the Vayne deck, Vayne Zed, something that I've played a ton this season actually. because it's the most similar to Poppy Tarek, and I was a filthy Poppy Tarek player last season. But
Yeah, I remember
again,
that
we're
conversation.
seeing again we see the Seraphine Ezreal and the Annie Jin, but interestingly, some new decks like we saw earlier where we were spotlighting the Katarina Yasuo, the Swain MF. Surprisingly for Swain MF from someone else on Public Hellers is being played by Monte Cristo as well. But the Akshan Lee Sin, a classic with the Akshan release, definitely something to be worried about. Such a strong deck once the Lee Sin levels up.
And that's one that I was looking forward to the most, if I'm honest. Like that deck, I not only do I find it really enjoyable, I think that it has a lot of measures to play against quite a lot of decks. It isn't a deck that is just for one or two certain situations. Like you can play it against a lot of decks, and it can find a lot of value. So I'm really interested in seeing if it ends up getting played. We may see a situation like in the previous game where they banned away Seraph. They didn't ban away Seraph in Ezreal, and we got the chance to see it, and they opted into banning something else. But I think that this time around feels like maybe one of the better approaches for Monte Cristo.
Yeah, no, this is going to be an interesting matchup just because of the variety of decks, I think. As we see the bans come through, Seraphine Ezreal as Annie Jin. No more. None of that. It seems like Monte Cristo is not looking forward to playing against two burn decks.
Yeah, I respect that. At least we do get the action with some near decks. A lot of potential damage between these two that are going to be made, and we're going to get double. I would be willing to say double Raleigh against each other. Would be really fun. Misfortune Swing against Bane instead.
That would be an interesting matchup. I do have to be worried though, because the Swain Zed or the Vayne Zed
Bane Zed.
into either the Swain MF or the Cat Yasuo. That's a very risky deck to play into because the pirate deck is burn, but it is also aggro, which is something that
Yes.
you don't really want to play into as the Vayne Zed. You want to kind of like ramp up attacks with Zed and then go for some big attack with Zed. And then the Yasuo cat is also just a lot of control with the stuns, which is denying your strikes with Zed. You still get the attacks for the Vayne, but again, once the Yasuo levels up, that's a huge amount of clear.
Yeah, to me, I would feel a little bit more scared with the Bane set against the Yasuo cat, particularly because of that having that potential threat of almost always each round when the level up comes up, almost always each round having to be scared about if you can survive or not for the next round of attacks that you want to try and pull off. So I think that that is the deck that I'm looking the most forward to seeing against the Bane set, but obviously going against the Pirate variation, I would call it, is going to be fun as well.
Yeah, and I think if we're talking about like that, I think we're gonna see probably the Lee Sin action from Max first. Get that win out of the way, and then potentially use your second two games to try and get the win with the Vayne Lee Sin or the Vayne Zed, and that's probably what we're seeing here. The Lee Sin
Precisely.
action's coming out first, just trying to get that win. Give yourself two games to get a win with the action or the Vayne Zed.
And in comparison, it is going to be the Yasuo Katarina to start off from Monte Cristo. I'm really interested in seeing the dynamics here. The Lee Sin to start off, I would be more expecting to see the Lee Sin not be on the first round in the first mulligan. I would rather think that you would like to have the action much more to start off.
Yeah, that
Hmm.
that is something that you usually would like to see is that having the action on first, but when you have the Lee Sin in the Lee Sin deck, you don't get rid of it. It's not a card you want to be waiting for. That's a card that you want to get down as soon as possible to push yourself into that victory.
Yeah.
Because if you're able to get the Lee Sin down early, able to get that level up off, you're gonna be basically unstoppable as you kick down the opponent's Nexus. But if you're looking for that Lee Sin, you're waiting, you already have the level up, you don't necessarily have the lethal because you're just having these small units. You have the Ionian Hookmaster, you have the Karn Vagabond. You're still looking for something that is going to be able to push damage onto the Nexus, and that's Lee Sin in your deck.
Pretty much the main. You would call it. Would it be fine to call it just the main win condition essentially?
Lee
Like
Sin is the main win condition.
yeah, 100% win condition.
Not 100%, like 95% of the
95.
wins
Okay.
in the Lee Sin Action deck come from Lee Sin.
The
The rest
other
of them,
5 is something else, not action necessarily, something else.
the other 5 is giving one of your cards a huge amount of power and overwhelm with the Redeemer.
But see, it's not action, so I'm kind of right.
Yeah, and one thing I'm surprised, totally unrelated, is that we haven't seen any Master Yi Lee Sin.
Oh,
Master
true.
Yi Lee Sin has been an interesting deck just because of the free spells, I guess, you get to use with Master Yi, the reduced cost. But it's still not probably as good as the Lee Sin action.
So when I heard of the deck, I thought that it was pretty much a just troll your opponent till you kill him kind of deck. But in reality, it was much better than I expected. I'm still glad that we're not seeing it, but it was much better than I expected initially, if I'm honest.
And now we're seeing the Yasuo onto the board. Thankfully, there's no clear in Max's hand to get rid of this Yasuo. But having it on the board is definitely not something that you're looking forward to. You see, or we see at least, the Ravenous Flock in Monty's hand. That will be able to clear the Vagabond instantly. This is interesting.
It's an interesting moment to put it down as well. Like not the moment that I was expecting to see the Yasuo come down, but maybe just betting that there's no real threats that could affect the Yasuo at all.
Mm-hmm. And it's a fair assumption. I mean, you know what your opponent is bringing in terms of
Yep.
the deck list, and there's obviously not that many forms of clear in the Lee Sin Action deck, and any form of clear in the deck is just Will of Ionia. And it just puts it back in your hand. There's nothing really else to see because the Action isn't on the board, which means there's no grapple hook. So you need 2 actions to get the grapple hook going.
Only I can endure
Here
the
comes
dragon's
Lee
fury.
Sin.
Here comes the Lee Sin, and it's probably best to get it out now because Lee Sin is probably the most likely way you get to kill the Yasuo.
With the stun coming here, you can already play around with Lee Sin being in place, even though it's not going to die immediately. Obviously, you can still play around it really effectively.
Yeah, and this is pretty close to the Yasuo level up, which is gonna put the Lee Sin in a precarious spot. Once it becomes Yasuo strikes the opponent, as opposed to just Yasuo deals 2 damage when it's stunned.
Scum.
This is not the best place to be.
No, it's forcing you
Not a
to
chance.
try and act or react as soon as
Not a
possible with
chance.
something to really pull down against this Yasuo, because if not, you're just going to force yourself into an unsavable situation.
Mm-hmm. Now I'm trying to remember. So the Vicarian Vagabond was 5/4. Is that enough to get over the kill limit? And it's not. It's still gonna die to quick attack for the Yasuo. So probably best to trade it out with the Sentry. You get that equipment back to be able to put onto the Lee Sin. Reset some of the damage that's been done to it. But you do need to find a way to kill this Yasuo. And given that there's 2 stuns in Yasuo's hand, it's unlikely.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like that's going to be a play that we can hope to expect to see so much. It is nice to see that they are still keeping the Lee Sin safe enough, even with the sun coming down. But this Yasuo level up is going to be really important. Choice again.
At the Yasuo level up will be interesting. Good that Max opted to use the momentous choice to heal the Action, or the Lee Sin,
The Lee
excuse me,
Sin.
because there is the Ravenous Flock, that would be able to kill the Lee Sin, and using it last turn makes it so that the Lee Sin is undamaged this turn, so you can't even use the Ravenous Flock. If you waited till this turn, the Ravenous Flock would have been able to target it. The momentous choice would have just given it 2 health as opposed to being a healed unit this turn. Would have been a lot worse off. The Ravenous Flock, along with any stun, would have cleared the Lee Sin. Now, granted, we are getting the barrier. We are getting the Action, the Warlord's Palace spell. Predict, draw the Action. Excellent work. And now we're going to see the Concussive Palm come out, deny this attack from Lee Sin.
Yeah, you can allow. Well, Yeah, you'd rather just keep the Yasuo safe.
I mean, there's no reason not to. I mean, Yasuo's the
Yeah.
only card you have on board right now. There's what are
Interesting.
you what are we looking for?
Maybe just to add extra, just in case.
Maybe a Steel Tempest, a cheaper stun card, so that you would have more opportunity to spend on this turn.
But would you want to spend this turn? Like, there's not much that can happen anyway this turn after this, apart from the action. So I'm not sure if that matters. With negation.
Yeah, I mean, that's unfortunate. There's no way to stop the deny, so that was just rough for Monte Cristo because you want the Yasuo on the board. You need the
Yeah.
Yasuo on the board.
Think you're fast? Cute.
And the Lee Sin was able to survive the Yasuo's damage and then also clear it, and now the Action's on the board. The Lee Sin level up should be next turn. I'm assuming. It is past the halfway mark. We have seen a lot of spells be used on it
Jack said
specifically.
there'd be contenders out here.
Respect. Okay, the stun coming in. So this does level up the Yasuo, if I'm wrong, to an extent that you have it.
No, that still
It's
needs
not
one
enough
more
still?
stun. One more
Okay.
stun.
Sure.
One
so
more stun
it's
for the Yasuo.
not enough just yet, but it just still doesn't. It's not like you have it anyway, so
Yeah, and
still good attack.
Action. I guess you've already gotten the Action's second landmark off, so you don't necessarily need it.
Yep.
But do you want to trade it for nothing? I don't think you trade it for the Twirl Blade's damage. I feel like you should use it to trade out a unit at least.
Yeah.
Unless you're
I like
opting,
it pretty
unless
severe,
you're
but-
unless you're opting for the momentous choice, which definitely is the best thing to do if you're trying to save the Action and clear the Twirl Blade. I think
Sure,
the
take your
momentous
time.
choice.
I love to be kept waiting.
So maybe that way he's setting up like this. So salvaging the action in a way would be the best. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And if you momentous choice give to the 1/1, you're baiting out a ravenous flock on the Action that's injured, which you can then use your Tellstones to get a health potion and heal the Action, which denies the ravenous. So this could be big. This could be big. This could be a really good play for Max.
Yeah, it could be setting up pretty nicely for him. Well,
Oh wait, no, because the Vestian Disciple recalls. So it gives
Okay.
it gives the Troll Blade 5. So if Monty wants to, Monty can still Ravenous because there's no more mana left. You need 2 mana to get the health potion off.
but do you use it on the
Tech-
action though?
The
you really use
Ravenous,
it?
I don't think the Ravenous damages the Lee Sin. Like the barrier is too much. You need to pop the barrier and then damage. So yeah, there's the
Okay.
Ravenous block. That no more Action, which doesn't really matter because they've leveled up the second.
But
They've counted down the second landmark, which
one thing though that I do think for Monte Cristo benefits is that taking away resources to keep adding to this leasing. So I think that all in all, it's not a bad choice at that point. It's still a pretty strong leasing. Don't get me wrong.
yeah. And now we're gonna see the Absolver Redeemer onto the Lee Sin. That's 12 damage. This is 24 damage in 1 turn with Spell Shield. You need 2 stuns. You don't have them. That's this game. We've reached the Lee Sin level up. The Lee Sin Super Kicker. The Deny. That's the only way you live.
It's still surviving. So
It's still surviving. But there's the Windswept Hillock in Monte Cristo's hand. Good start. You can play that next turn to summon a Yasuo. But then you still don't have any mana. And there's a 12-11 Lee Sin. Well, 12-11 for this turn.
Conflict is all in the mind.
now with
And there's another
Absolver
Absolver
anyway,
Redeemer.
yeah.
Okay. Another Absolver Redeemer.
Why not?
Yeah, and then
Just
we're gonna
another
see.
one.
We're gonna see. I'm assuming Wait. How does Max live through this? Because there's 4 health. Max has an Ionian Tellstones. There's the for a health potion or a homecoming. It has to be homecoming. Oh, this is really bad. This is really wait. This is really good. Because Monty's overdrawn on mana. Monty should have gone for the attack, baited out the homecoming, and then used might on whichever card remained, and gotten the win.
Yeah, could have been the best option, really.
But I think this is still just a win.
This still forces out on Max, which is not bad. And yeah.
Well, that's it. That's it. There's still no answer. There still would have been a better way about this. Because if there was another answer in Max's hand, that could have been bad. It could have been Lee Sin comes down again and
Yep.
kills you. But, there was no answer. Max still was able to find the win. That was close. That was a really close game. I thought it was over once the Lee Sin got to the
was
super
looking like
kicker
that.
status. But the deny came through, and then having the 2 attackers with no answer from Max was really clutch for Monty. That was a really close game.
I told
And we're seeing the
you
run
being
back.
alive is better than being dead.
Yeah,
Helps
exactly.
a lot.
That the deny into the 2 attacks. That could have been bad though if there was an answer from Max.
True. That is true, but at the end, Monty ends up making it work out, getting that first victory, and forcing out Max to be in a top spot now, going again for the Lee Sin and the action. Now, if he doesn't get the same setup, especially against a deck like this from Monte Cristo that wants to keep up the tempo, I think can be risky.
What technique is this?
Yeah, I mean, this deck, like you mentioned, like the Monte Cristo deck is Monte Cristo's deck is aggro. It is a Pirates deck, except with Swain instead of like a Gangplank now.
Yep.
And Max got the tracks. Only has a few units, only so many, and I think this is the quick attack angle. This is a quick attack. Oh wow! Ooh. Oh, you should have I think you should have gone quick attack. The quick attack allows you to attack guaranteed, and then once you get the MF out, you can put the quick attack onto MF, who gets overwhelmed on level up if she lives that long. But
Oh, yeah, just adding extra value to the map, really.
yeah, the overwhelm is to push, is just the most push for your book.
Guns blazing.
I would be surprised if you actually commit here the map. Not really necessary, if I'm honest.
No, I don't think you commit the MF because if you're Max just lets the Fishmaster attack and then blocks the MF with the Vicarin.
Yep.
And you eat that 3 damage every day if you can kill the MF. If you can trade the MF, you eat that damage. So yeah, saving the MF was the smarter choice just because of the amount of value that it will provide the longer it sits on the board. Because, like we mentioned earlier, the only clear in Max's Action Lee Sin deck is the Ionian Tellstones, 2 Concussive Palms, and a Will of Ionia. And the Concussive Palms don't even clear. It just stuns them, stops them from attacking.
It's a stop, yeah.
You don't have anything that actually kills the unit until you get the Lee Sin level up. You can only stop it from attacking or put it back in your opponent's hand.
Yep. That's why I think now Monty's trying to rush the issue as well, trying to put down as much force as possible so that can never be an actual issue.
And I think you have to play a unit if you're Max. You got to play something here. And wow, wait, I was looking at the deck list. Did the Mariah Warden summon a Watchful Idol?
Now, say I think I'm not actually sure. I think it did.
Time for violence.
Okay. Thank you, production. Yes, it did.
Wow. Talk about value. That is a very, very good roll. And we're going to see, yeah, obviously the Vicarin blocks the 3 damage because it can. And then we're gonna activate the float here for the Eye of the Dragon, get some Dragonlings out there, get some lifesteal. But this is turning very very bad very quickly for Max. You know,
It does
the
allow
MF
to at least keep more more board value, right? Which I think for Max, until he gets towards that action and that Lee Sin level up particularly, you need to try and keep yourself alive, but now it's not good.
Yeah, and you know, one of the problems, like I mentioned, is the Lee Sin is not here. The Lee Sin has not
Yep.
been found. You need the Lee Sin as soon as possible, especially into a deck like this one that is so aggro. You need to take away what is the main driving force, which is the MF. You need to get rid of that card. You
Oh,
know, using the deep meditation, trying to find some extra spells to, you know, help stall the game out. You found your Shuriman and Tellstones, which is a good start.
no, Lee Sin still.
This
It's-
might have to be a Shuriman Tellstone into Relentless Hunter, or excuse me, not Relentless Hunter, Ruthless Predator. You know, the +2 given enemy
Yeah.
vulnerable. It has to be Ruthless Predator. You have to kill the MF. Shuriman Tellstone, Ruthless Predator. Or I guess you can wait. Oh, but you don't want to wait. Oh. There we go.
Yeah, it's not the kind of thing that I think you would like to see, to try and draw it as much as possible.
It should have been a Ruthless Predator so you could challenge the MF. You know, force it to die, force it to be Noxian Fervored, something.
Yep.
Because now you're going to see a 5-wide attack into 2 blockers or 3 blockers. And it's gonna be a rampage, honestly. There's gonna be 5-wide attack, 6-wide attack if you want the MF, because you know you're pretty much pushing lethal.
That
At
is
this
so
point.
big, yeah. I think you can just force it, really. You don't. Oh,
Yeah, no,
oh,
this is the greedy play, TDS. You know, looking for the aggro, make it rain, getting it onto both 1 cost or both one health units. Going to have to force out the momentous choice if they want to keep one of them alive. And
yeah,
I don't think the
actually,
momentous choice is upgraded yet. I don't think they've summoned the Hookmaster for Max.
pretty sure it hasn't with that.
So they'll still only give 1
Yep.
health. Only 1 health. This is not good. Not good at all. Not good one bit,
Never stop
as they
shooting.
say. Oh wow.
It did save the life steal, so at least that can bring up some health back to you to keep
Oh
yourself there.
no, because the MF ability will kill it.
Wait,
It'll
actually,
die
yeah.
and only serve to block damage.
Yeah, it's still not. It's still not slow enough. Feels like.
I mean, if you're... Ooh, that was a good choice. I like that.
Okay.
That was good. Now, the problem is, if you're Max, I think you go for a concussive palm right now. I think you go for...
You have to know.
I think you have to use the concussive palm just so that you can stun the 5-2 overwhelm and have a unit on the board. Because things are looking not good. If this just attacks as 5, 9, 11, 14 plus the 1 damage from MF. So that's still over lethal.
Yep.
And you can block 5 of it. So that's 9 damage pushed through, and you lose both units that you're blocking with, which leaves you in a very, very precarious position to be Noxian Fervored, or I don't believe there's Decimate anymore. Decimate got nerfed, so
It would. And yeah, no.
I'll do better this time.
people have given up on it. But yeah, no, here's the 15 damage attack. Oh, wait, that's a
Okay,
Spirit
okay.
Fire. That's a Spirit Fire.
Not a bad
Wow,
choice.
and there it
actually.
is, the Rost emote. What we've all been waiting for, what we've really been wanting to see, the Rost emote.
This was what we were actually playing for, not the
When
actual
you're-
game, the Rast team.
When your opponent high rolls, Rost emote. That's what the game is about. That was a really, really good play. I like that they kept
Yeah.
the... Well, I would have liked to see the Shuriman Tellstone be used to kill the MF, because you would have gotten something back. But having it for the fire, the spirit fire, definitely a good card because now you're also just getting a huge amount of clear here. That was probably the better choice in my short-sightedness.
Yeah, and honestly, I really like the decision making there. It salvaged the game at least for another round. You can now try and hope for that Lee Sin, and it's still not there.
Fresh out of mercy. No regrets, no mercy.
And there's the MF level up, so there's no stopping the damage to the ability, except you can still stop the damage from the MF. And Swain, they found the Monty didn't need to play the Leviathan, but they will play the Leviathan because it ends the game in 2 turns.
It's
That's it.
would you call it the BM play or? Look, there's the action.
I don't know if I'd call it the BM play. There's nothing else to really do here.
Okay, fair enough. Just wanted to be sure that it's not the case here. There's the Swain.
That's now we're getting into a borderline. That would be like you already played the Leviathan. You already said you're winning the game before you.
You wanted the viewers to see how great the
Infernal
the animation
Swain
was.
is.
Yeah, exactly.
I said, look at my Infernal Swain in Arcade MF. I've got the cool items.
We're just waiting for the inevitable at this point, pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's anything that can be done because the Leviathan. Even without the Leviathan, there's not too much to do.
Yeah, like almost anything can pretty much get the win. Or
We're gonna kill the Leviathan. See if we can high roll something else. Oh, make it rain.
not even that. It wasn't nice.
Wow. The 2-0 from Monty. That was very, very interesting. This game, not as close as the first one, but still a very, very good series from both players. You know, Monte Cristo, Max got the tracks. Both very, very skilled players. And that gives, you know, the Wobbly Hydra. Wobbly Hydra is 2-0 for that series. And looking at the updates from our Master Hirsch, Pat is 1-0. So that's Wobbly Hydra with the 3-0 currently. And Yang versus Tank Buster just in is 1-1. So it's 4-1 in favor of Wobbly Hydra currently. And I think we're going to try and get into another match. It sounds like Pat Prodigy could be still going on. Yang versus Tank Buster, unsure what the current status is. But overall, 4-1 in favor of Wobbly Hydra.
Wobbly Hydra doing a pretty good job. We saw the matchup with Monte Cristo just now, how well they played. Really goes to show how good this team it's looking like to be. They have really good players. And I also wanted to mention a little bit before we jump into something else in that with the Monte Cristo and Max matchup. It really felt like the first game decided quite a lot because the first game was really, really close, but with how it kind of abruptly ended and the way that it did, it kind of just pushed the advantage into Monte Cristo, and it just allowed for him to really take it up after that.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like Max had the plan of I need to find my Lee Sin win. I need to get the Lee Sin win before I have to play against the Swain MF twice.
It felt like that was a choice, and at the end, it didn't pay off. We wanted to see the Bane instead against the man.
It was so close. It was you had the Lee Sin one shot super kick, but the deny from Monty was
Perfect
they
timing.
always to quote my favorite team name in the league right now. They always have it. The icon is a deny. They always have it. They always have it. They always have deny. You can never expect the deny to not be there, and it's exclusively for situations like that when the Lee Sin is threatening to do 24 damage in one attack. Like, you gotta have the deny. You gotta expect the deny.
It works out when it works out, and that's the moment where it mainly works out. And you love to see it. Well, if you're a viewer or you're a fan of Wobbly Wombats, you love to see it. If you're on the other side, you certainly didn't want to see that at all.
Exactly. I mean, if you're a Wobbly fan, that was good. If you weren't a Wobbly fan, that was rough to watch.
Yep.
And I'm checking with the squad, and we might be able to get into the Prodigy versus
But
Pat game. I think they just started game 3, so we'll be seeing if we can get into that.
and both are
We are
1-1
working on it.
right now.
Yes, they are 1-1
Yeah.
right now. So that means it's 4-2 still in favor of the Wobblies. So Wobbly found a guaranteed victory today,
Yep.
but it still could be close. It still could be a 4-3 if Prodigy is able to pull this out.
Yeah, it could be a pretty good turnaround for them if they are able
Mm-hmm.
to get those points and turn it around. But so far, looking good for the Wobbly Wombats. Now, while we're waiting, we're getting notice that it's soon enough, so we're getting into there. But the game looks to be really exciting as well. Being able to take it to the third game, 1-1, both players running interesting decks as well, should be pretty exciting to see what they are left with right now. Not actually 100% sure, but should be pretty interesting.
Yeah, Prodigy's running the MF Swain like we just saw. Elise Gwen Katarina, which is an interesting deck. It's the infinite attack if you can get that set up. The Fiora Pantheon, Prodigy. And then Pat is running Annie Jin, Cat Yas, and Karma Seraphine Victor. So a variation of Seraphine. Not Ezreal Seraphine, thank goodness, but still a very, very powerful deck because of the synergy between Seraphine doubling spells and Victor's augment and associated cards.
Yeah, I'm not expecting really to get the chance to see that deck. I think that it was more than likely banned away, I think. But
Probably.
it's a deck that has so many variations that you can pull up
Mhm.
inside of that variation of the Seraphine. So it seems like a pretty interesting deck to end up playing against or watching how it develops. The Katarina Yasuo we saw in the previous game with Monte Cristo, how effective it could be, even though we didn't get to the Yasuo part of it or the Katarina part of it. It's still a deck that I found kind of interesting. And then Anijin was banned, so not much that we can talk about that either.
And what is there to talk about? Anijin's been around since World Walker was released, so one of the OG Runeterra champions, and it's more or less just a burn deck. I mean,
Yeah,
it's kind of just a
pretty
burn
much.
deck. It uses a lot of skills, so it's it can be annoying to play against, to say the least.
It's
Like all
annoying.
burn
That's the
decks,
main thing you need to know.
but we are still waiting to see if we can get in.
Oh,
We just got word we're getting in. We're getting in. We can hopefully get into the view of the game soon. But 1-1 reminder between Pat and Prodigy. It's definitely a wobbly Hydra win on the day no matter what. But Prodigy is going to be able to try and pull this back. And we're already into round 5. We see a
They took my
pretty
love,
strong
left my
Saga Seeker here, TDS. This is looking close. This is going to be interesting to see.
yeah, important to call out. It's Anijin and it's going to be Pantheon Fiora Honorable. Yeah.
Yeah, and the most important thing to mention though is that Pat is almost tapped out. Pat's got one card in his hand, and Prodigy, while Prodigy still only has 2, they don't need that many more cards now that they have this Saga Seeker pretty beefed up.
Yeah, we already know what the actual bar is going to come in with the Saga Seeker, so
Yeah, and
Blast them.
Pat's gonna need to find something because this could get out of hand fairly quickly. Having 2 crack shots definitely good.
well,
Interesting
it's
that they
more
opted not
damage.
to attack with the witness as well, because the witness would have guaranteed that you trade out, not even guarantee you kill the shepherd or get 3 damage onto the nexus. So I'm surprised they didn't go for the attack with the witness. I guess is besides to block this turn.
Yeah, I think that it has to be true because of the worry of maybe next turn, if you don't get the damage here, next turn you just get completely bursted out.
Now, surprising that Prodigy opted to use the Darkened Lodestone on the Saga Seeker as opposed to like the Sandsworn Amulet or the Chain Vest, because you could have gotten a 3/3 Shepherd and then turn your Saga Seeker into 7/7 plus the Sandsworn and the Talisman, and turn into like a 9 power unit. Would have been really, really big. But instead we're just sitting here at 6-5. I guess they were afraid of something else coming out to try and kill the Saga Seeker. Wanted to get
Yeah.
the attack as soon as possible, since Pat ate into the attack, or ate into the spell shield with the Solari Sunhawk.
Still such a heavy attack that you're getting though. Like
Mm-hmm.
Prodigy just has such a good setup in this attack, and then the next time that he gets another attack value, he just gets the immense value to be able to get the win.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow. Prodigy opted not to block with the Sunhawk, even just to save damage. That's...
Is that worth it though?
I don't think so. Especially now that Prodigy has this Cam 4 in hand.
You won't get
This
past me.
this is a big attack next turn.
So close to fame.
And there's no way to really stop it. You have the stage hand in hand, but the stage hand is a stun and ephemeral, so you get to either break the...
If
Yeah,
you
there's
do
nothing
not
you
have
can
a
really
part
do.
to
This
play,
is
take one.
this is over, and Prodigy knows it, giving out the Shen Bao. Wow, so this
Yeah, no,
yeah, this Saga Seeker was able to get pretty beefy. And we have another update for you. Tank Buster 2-1'd
We do is so much bigger
2-1'd
than us,
Yang. So this actually could be a 4-4 or a 4-4 tie. This is probably going to end up in a 4-4 tie for Wobbly Puffcap. I thought this was a wobbly win for sure today. But Puffcap coming in, making sure no one forgets
Get out
them.
of my way.
that's why you can't give up on Puffcat ever, because they have the players to be able to pull it off.
Literally. And, you know, there it is.
Yep.
There's the surrender. Giving Puffcat the 4-4. I apologize to
Really
Puffcat.
nice play.
I'll eat my words. I thought that Yang had already beaten Tank Buster, but no. That was a Puffcat comeback. And that was a little bit of a rhyme, not that much. But no, Prodigy pulling out the win with a huge Saga Seeker and a Cam 4, making sure that there was nothing that could really be done. You know, finding the spell shields, everything you need to make sure that the stuns in Pat's hand were basically for nothing, and pull out an early win actually with that one before even round 8.
Did a pretty good job, and now we don't know how it started or how things get so out of control, but it was really well managed by Prodigy. He find what he needed to do to allow for this Saga Seeker to be really strong, and even when he still had such a strong card, he was able to add on top of that. So it was just such a controlled and well played out victory by Prodigy.
Yeah, and well played to the Puffcat Peddlers for bringing this back from what looked like a really strong
Yeah.
wobbly Hydra win to, you know, bring it down to a 4-4 tie. So really well played from Puffcat Peddlers. And I mean, that there's nothing else to really say. That was a really good match. It is unfortunate that it came out the way for Max in the first match, but I mean, his team came through. His team pulled it out.
Did a pretty good job overall. This is why it's important to always keep in mind the rest of the
Mm-hmm.
score lines from the other matches, because you don't know how the rest of the overall match scoreboard ends up getting. So it's really nice to see how the rest of the members did. And I think even just sending a message towards you, Dom, still undefeated in groups, says Prodigy. So maybe
So
it's for you.
I've been informed by our Hirsch that PCP Tech won the set because they got the 2 set wins. So
No.
that does make sense. That does make sense. I thought that we were doing the overall score, but good job for Puffcap coming through, picking up the slack. Not that there
Yeah,
was
doing
slack,
what needed to
but
be done, pretty much.
yeah. No, well played for Puffcap. You know, bringing this game, or bringing their set back around. We will be cutting to a short intermission before our final match of the game, or of the day, excuse me, between TDS. Back me up.
I need to quickly check out. Yep.
They always have it in Church of Targon.
We actually talked about it, which is the funny part.
Yeah, wait, hold on.
We knew about them. We just were thinking too much. That's the issue.
Yeah, that's why it was on my mind, because I had looked at it and I was like,
Exactly.
that's a logo, that's a team name, and that's what it's going to be after we come back from this short break. I said, what's up, what's up, what's up? We're back with the final match of the night for week 3 between They Always Have It and Church of Targon. They always have it. They always have it. We mentioned it earlier. They always have it. And this is going to be an interesting game. This is going to be big. This is a very important game for Church of Targon. Church of Targon, last place of the group. They need the wins. I mean, I say this every time. They always need the wins. Every
Yeah.
win is important. Every win is super important win because everything counts for playoffs. You know, you have to get the wins. Wins, wins, wins. I'm gonna keep saying it. I'm gonna sound like a broken record.
We're going to add to your screen from now on just win
Yeah.
consistently in your face.
Yeah, no, next week the flavor text under here is just to say they need
Win
the win.
win.
They need the
Yeah.
win. Um but no, it's very important that Church Dragon gets these wins as we jump straight into the first deck that we're highlighting from They Always Have It. The Seraphine Victor deck from Zen. Seraphine Victor is a new spin on the Seraphine deck. We've been seeing a lot of Seraphine Ezreal, but this one is all about the augment, all about getting Victor really, really strong with the Seraphine. And it
And if
works
I'm
really, really
honest,
well. You see, we're coming down
yeah.
off the screen with the spells here.
Yeah, if I'm honest, I actually like this variation quite a bit. I think it's bound to become, if I'm honest, I think it's bound to become the better version than the Ezreal. Because even though I think Ezreal is good and all that, I think that this version is super underappreciated and it has so much value when you think about it.
Yeah, and one thing I really like out of the deck is actually inspired plans. It's an equipment that costs 2, gives you 1/1, but when you attack, create a new 2-cost spell and give it fleeting. That's a really, really good card to have for Seraphine. And you have cards like the Acorn Technician, the Pharaoh's Financier, especially the minion that always stays in your hand when it dies. You'll always have something to attack with, should you need it.
Yeah, like the alternatives that you get with this deck are, in my eyes at least, really consistent and really good, and you can always find the value to be able to play off with them. So I think that this version, it's going to shine. If it doesn't get banned, I'd be kind of surprised, but at the same time, I hope that we get to see it a bit.
Yeah, and while we're talking about spells you can't see, it wouldn't be a Seraphine deck without the Sputtering Song Spinner,
Yes,
everyone's favorite 7-cost spell. As always, these deck lists brought to you by Runeterra AR.
I was actually
Overall,
going to remember the fact that we thank Runeterra AR for this, but yeah, thank you,
yeah,
Runeterra
no,
AR.
you're
Just
welcome. I got you.
a...
And this deck is just so strong. Yeah, honestly, I like it better than the Ezreal Seraphine deck just because it's easier to play around, either easier to play into. But no, it's still super strong. Such a good deck. Victor, really, really good card to have with Seraphine. As we
100%.
move on to the other deck from Church of Targon, they're bringing a Vayne Fiora Quinn deck.
It's
This
an
is a very
interesting spin,
interesting
right?
deck. Sorry?
I'm just saying, like, it's an interesting spin, right? Because
Yeah.
it does have the Bane value that you really like. You have that
Mhm.
continuous attack potential with just continuous barrage of damage that you can deal with. But it's not something that I was expecting to see with the Bane, if I'm honest. Like, I think Bane Queen makes to me a bit more sense in isolation. But Bane Fiora Queen is not something I was expecting to see.
Yeah, it's an interesting deck. It's an interesting deck just because I'm trying to figure out like what's the best angle to here to play for the win because I haven't experienced too much Fiora and only having one that's not your main goal. Is your main goal is not winning with the Fiora. It's I'm assuming going through a huge amount of attacks with the Quinn, using the Scout to expedite the Vayne level up because when you use a Cataclysm, when you use your Tumble, the free attack on a Scout unit basically functions as a whole rally because on a defense turn the first time your scouts attack is a rally.
Yeah.
um Having the Piltover Cook Castaway, having the Combat Cook, I think really, really important parts of this deck. The only thing I'm worried is that you have Piltover, you have 8 Piltover cards. Are these Piltover cards worthwhile, or would it have been better to go for a different region with a different a different cast or a different weapon master instead of the castaway, but the more I look at it, the more I can see what they were looking at with the Forge Chief for the mana refill and the Darkened Harp granting quick attack, which, if you're able to find that Fiora, giving it quick attack is a really, really easy way to get the win.
I'm pretty much guessing that the whole idea, the whole value, the whole aspect that you're looking for with this deck is just to try and rush as much attacks as possible, so that obviously you get the level up soon enough, but that you don't allow your opponent to think enough to try and answer back.
Yeah, exactly. You're always playing on the back foot against a deck that's attacking every turn. As we get into the ban phase, it's between Church of Targon and They Always Have It. I'm gonna try and match up the deck lists. It looks like it is Zen. It looks like it is Zen
Yeah, it
from They
is
Always
Zen.
Have It, and maybe next time from Church of Targon.
Yeah, it is maybe next time, and it is Zen. So pretty straightforward. Their decks,
Mhm.
we have seen some of them. We know what to
Mhm.
expect out of them, and having both of them, the variations of Seraphine that are more likely to be seen. Interesting. I'm not expecting to see one. I'm at least expecting to see one of the two banned. Not necessarily both, but at least one of the two is probably getting banned. And on the side of They Always Have It as well, to quickly mention, they have two versions of trying to rush attacks as much as possible, because they do
Mhm.
have the Bane Queen, but they also have the Pirates with the Swain.
Mhm. Yeah, I think if you're I think if you're Zen on They Always Have It, I think you're taking away. Honestly, I think you're taking away the Vayne Quinn. I think that's what you take away. I think you have an easy enough matchup. Oh, they
There
both took
is,
away the Vayne Quinn.
yep.
Yeah, I think if you're Zen, your MF Swain deck probably wins into either of maybe next times. And maybe next time, if they're limited to the Heimer Nora and the Ezreal Seraphine, you just need to find one win against those with your Seraphine deck. And your
Much
Seraphine
it's
deck,
just playing to get the better, like the easier, no, not the easier, the it's just stacking to get the better wins, pretty much, on the
Mhm.
side of Church of Targon. And I think that not a bad bet, especially because I also think that Bane was the most. Well, I thought it was going to be Surfing, much more so, but Bane Queen makes a lot of sense, and it can also produce a lot of damage to Church of Targon.
honestly, I think this is probably the best matchup Zen could have got, just because Zen's lineup probably goes way easier into both of the remaining decks, like I mentioned, and you take away the Vayne Quinn, makes it really, really easy. I don't know if taking away Vayne Quinn was the answer for maybe next time.
No, right?
I want to believe that Vayne Quinn suffers the same amount from clear as the Vayne Zed does to Seraphine, Ezreal, and Heimer Nora. I feel like that probably would have been easier because the Swain MF deck is so oppressive into a slow
That is
deck
true.
like the Heimer Nora or even the Seraphine Ezreal if it has a bad draw. I feel like
So
that would have been way rough.
you're taking the better bands coming in from the side of They Always Have It.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
think that
no,
they opted into a better trade.
mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I
It's
mean
good.
there's no question what you take away from Church of Targon if you're Zen, but if you're maybe next time on Church of Targon you're questioning what is the best ban.
I honestly feel like it was a smart preparation to bring both the Bane Queen and the Misfortune Swain decks out in this with the three decks, because it forces you to go for one of these two in a way. And taking
Mhm.
away the Bane Queen, it's maybe not the best option. It could be kind of, but at the same time, it opens up an angle for you to go for another strong deck like that.
Yeah, exactly, and it should be interesting. I wonder what they're going to choose to lead with, but I feel like I already know. I feel like you lead with the pirate deck because if you're Zen on, they always have it, and probably the Nora deck if you're maybe next time.
See it. I think starting with the Nora makes a lot of sense, especially after what we saw last time. I think that you kind of want to get that done with in a way
Hmm.
as soon as
Yeah,
possible.
the most opportunities to find the good draw, and instead we're gonna see the Seraphine, not total mirror, but the Seraphine variation mirror matchup.
There is already two servings on the side of Church of Targon, so not a bad start, but there is a vengeance on the other side, so could
Yeah.
be the end of one of those two.
Yeah, and honestly, like I feel like you get rid of a Seraphine from your hand if you're maybe next time.
Yeah,
Or this is the whole team. This is the whole
yeah,
team.
exactly.
I forgot. This is the whole squad for they always have it in Church of Targon. So yeah, I think they always have it as a team chose the better lineup to go into Church of Targon.
And overall, I really like the decision to opt into the mulligan from both sides. Obviously, you end up getting the Seraphine on the side of they always have it, but Church of Targon really didn't have a lot that they could play with to start off. Anyway,
Yeah, yeah. Tossing both Seraphines is interesting. I think you should keep one
keeping
no
one
matter
would have been bad.
what.
Yeah,
But they always have it as a really good role. They have the Acorn into the Seraphine into an intermission round 3 for summons at least. But this is a really good spot. If you're Church of Targon, you're wondering, do you Mystic Shot the Acorn immediately?
you
Wow.
should go for that. Really.
Oh, yeah, there's the Mystic Shot. Making sure that the attack comes through first.
I'm actually not sure if if I'm in favor of utilizing Mystic Shot so soon like that.
Mm-hmm.
Think
Yeah, it's...
waiting a bit longer could have worked out. Possibly. Like, I'm not going to call that like it's a bad play or anything like that. I just surprised that it was used so early.
Yeah, and it's... If you really want to get technical, like, you're still making a mana positive trade because you're denying the cost reduction for the spell in hand if Acorn strikes with only 2 mana lost on your end, but
Yep.
wow. Drum solo. Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
Did you
No,
look
I
into
think it's a
it?
Pharaoh's Financier. Yep, there it
Okay.
is. Nah,
I
Drum
was
Solo is...
actually thinking if there's any argument for the Telzones, but I think
No,
Pharaoh's not a bad choice either.
the Pharaoh's Financier makes more sense because, you can high roll a Give It All or a Shock Blast, which is probably the better choice. But if you found Feel the Rush, that would have been pretty good. Feel
If
the
we
Rush would have
found
been
that, that would
wild.
have been such a good roll already.
Mhm. But no, it's a
Fan
good
club.
choice for the Pharaoh's Financier because you had mana, you needed a unit to drop, you get an extra spell, and now you're using the everyone's favorite, the Fan Club President, to create a a star shaping in hand. So you're gonna get 5 free health back onto your Nexus for 2 mana plus an invoke, which is gonna be pretty wild. And you choose the drum solo. Wow. Actually, Fan Club President for Church of Targon is high rolling even better because they found their own drum solo, reduced its cost to 2. When they flow it, it'll cost 0, draw 2, reduce 2 mana of those cards. That's gonna be pretty
That's the
wild.
roll, the kind of rolls that you like, right?
That's what you're looking for. That's when you hit the Rost emote TDS. That's what you're looking at. That's the Rost emote if I've ever seen one.
And especially in this kind of mirror matchups, right? You need to find those sorts of cards really early on, or at least at the right moments to really get ahead of your opponent, because you cannot you know how their setup kind of goes. So you want to have the better setup for yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it definitely does work out really well. Now I'm surprised that there hasn't been the Seraphine drop yet. Maybe they're just waiting for the level up so that they can get the instant 2/5 on the board, but both teams kind of stalling out for a moment. No units to play, just a bunch of spells.
It's interesting how far they are kind of dragging it, even though I understand why with the way that they kind of want to lay down their decks. I find it kind of surprising they are also taking so long in certain situations.
Well, that's part of what we are dealing with
Yeah.
it being a whole team. You know, the whole team is conversing, weighing options, coming up with game plans, and deciding on that best course of action as a group. So you are going to have a lot longer of an overall decision making process, but hopefully that decision is the most informed that it can be. As we wait to see
They
there
really are
is
thinking it.
well, part of the problem is that there's not much to play. Like you haven't hit the flow if you're they always have it. You haven't hit the flow to use your drum solo efficiently.
Only a few days till
You
the
can
show.
use
I got
Seraphine,
this.
but like you need to hit the flow for the drum solo to be worthwhile. And then if you're Church of Targon,
I was actually going to ask if both sides passing would have been a option at this point.
yeah, and they always have it drop Seraphine. Make it's fine. It's an okay play. Like you're risking that there's something to get rid of it from Church of Targon, but you're playing against a a excuse me. You're playing against the Church of Targon, or you're playing against Church of Targon's Ezreal Seraphine deck that has Ionia instead of Noxus. So the odds that there is something to like just insta clear, excuse me, is pretty low.
That is true. That's actually something that well there is now one of
Yeah,
those options.
the thermo has showed its face, so
We just had to
something
mention it. We just had to think
something
about it.
to be wary of. But yeah, the thermo is interesting. Now the problem the is it really a big problem to have the Seraphine on board for now, which I don't think it is a problem. I think you can sort of just live with it because you have your own setup of your own to do if you're Church of Targon.
I don't think that like there's too much unneeded, like not unneeded, like kind of that space, if that makes sense, to make use of this.
Hmm. I think both teams are just sort of looking for like how do they get the Seraphine on the board? And if you're Church of Targon, get the biggest wombo you can possibly get at once. Or if you're they always have it, you're like trying to figure out how to most efficiently level up the Seraphine so that when Victor hits the board you can double Hex Core. But both teams are kind of in a waiting game right now. There's not much to do.
Would you think their focus is to try and get the game done in one turn, particularly, much more so than just playing it out?
Well, I don't think there is a way for you to get it done in one turn if you are they always have it. If you are Church of Targon, there is definitely a way you get it done in one turn.
Yeah.
Now, that's going to take a while because you don't have Ezreal or Seraphine right now, but it is possible. It can be done.
Blackfield was weird. Nice decision making in that. They're really trying to make it as safe for themselves as possible with those decisions. I like the fact that they are trying to at least commit something to just deny the opening as much as possible, though.
Yeah. Now they got rid of the plans, so there is no more two cost spell generation uh for they always have it, but they've recycled the barkeeps. There is some more card generation, and the Loren Blademaster in hand can kind of really buff up a unit. Whether they're gonna buff up the Seraphine or wait for the Victor to drop is to be seen. But either card that gets dropped, the Loren Protege gets dropped onto should be a pretty strong one. And there's the Seraphine for Church of Targon. Finally.
They can finally look to set themselves up with the Seraphim to start off.
I mean, they can and they can't because they still have to look out for the Vengeance and the Quietus and
Light, stage, amp. All right,
What
let's
have you.
jam. Yeah. Let's change the
That is a
world.
good way to start, 100%.
hmm. So I think if they always have you hit the Quietus. Yeah, they hit the Quietus, the retreat comes out, and then you Vengeance. And then you kill the Seraphine anyways.
These setups are so like they're pretty much just the thing that I was expecting to see, but it took quite a bit, I have to
And
say.
then now you Vengeance, and the Seraphine gets recalled anyways. Yeah, I feel like you should Vengeance. Maybe you just let it go and you barkeep. Yeah, maybe let it go. Maybe let it go and barkeep is I think the question they're going through right now. Or not.
Oh,
Yeah. Then we're gonna see the retreat. Retreat. There's no question retreat.
like, do you? Is it really the case here for that? Okay,
Well,
so
retreat's the only way to save it. The double
okay,
retreat. Well, they've killed the Seraphine successfully.
yeah, they did. That is true. They did. Just not the one you were expecting.
Yeah. They've killed the other Seraphine, and their Seraphine is still safe. Definitely a
Everyone
Let's
smiles when
fire.
Seraphine dies, pretty much.
Oh,
Yeah.
shoot.
At least one of the Seraphines is gone, thank goodness.
Yeah,
And
one is
now,
better than nothing.
unfortunately, there's no return, so there's no super value save the Seraphine this turn. But you just play the
You just
Seraphine.
have to wait till you draw the next one. That's
Yeah,
it.
just wait till next turn and play it. But what are you waiting like, you've been thinking enough. Just pass until you pull your units. That's kind of where we're
Yeah,
at.
like that's not that much. There's not that much that I can see them just
Refreshments from across
waiting 100% for.
Runeterra.
Oh wow. Oh wow. Ooh, that's a good car. They've found the Cythria,
If you want
Lady
something
of
done right,
Cloudfell,
let me do it.
and that 2/2 Yordle card that does whatever, which is pretty interesting. I was just thinking it was a different card. That's my fault. I apologize, but still having that Yordle card is pretty good. Um,
But here comes both Israel and Seraphine.
yeah, that's not the best place to be. Now, granted, Church of Targon did use a good amount of spells last turn to, not get the Ezreal level up, or to not have the Ezreal out on the board doing damage. So, should be interesting. Should be interesting.
I'm surprised with how long though Church of Targon hold to the obliterate, right? Like the obliterate, not the blanking on names on
The
the
thermo.
yeah. On the no thermogenic beams. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, the thermogenic beam, yeah. Well, there's nothing to really use it on right now. Whoa, they discarded the... Wow, I'm surprised they discarded that card, because they literally are close enough to that card being able to be played, and it just provides such a huge boost, doubling your power of all units on board.
With
That's...
maybe the fear of next turn being something like not unplayable but hard coming from the side of Church of Targon that you're scared about.
I can understand that, but you could still have tossed the Loren Protege, because the Loren Protege doesn't do anything the Lady of Cloudfell doesn't, and the Lady of Cloudfell does it for your whole board. Whereas the Loren Blade Keeper only does it for one unit. It doesn't even do that well of it. Like, the Lady of Cloudfell gives you double power, double health, and Challenger, whereas the Loren Blade Keeper just gives you 3/3, which I guess is more than double power, double health for some of these units, but
Yeah, it's a surprising move, but it's I think maybe trying to set up for something. So it's
yeah,
kind of hard to say if that's not if it's not the better play for what they're looking right now, especially with how kind of the game has gone for them, where they don't have neither the picture nor Seraphine anymore to set up for themselves.
yeah, and that's kind of where you need that Lady of Cloudfall, because of how
True.
big of a game changer that card could be. Like, if you can build your board wide with the Lady of Cloudfell, then that's huge. That's a huge attack that you can find without needing your other two cards on the board. But we are now into the barkeep side for Charge of Targon. They found one of their bars in the barkeep, and they can summon Ezreal. I'm not sure if they've leveled him up yet, though. I think they might be like 1 or 2 off from the level up.
The crowd writes the songs. I just
Come
sing them.
Seraphine makes sense.
Wow, and the Seraphine finds a create card in hand, so convenient. Picking to straight next to the kills. Okay, wow, yeah, very good despair. Very good despair there. Now, the problem is that you can use your Telstone to find a homecoming and then recall something. Probably a bar, the bar? I would imagine it's the bar.
Yeah, that would make the most sense, no?
You would think.
So what else could you look
Yeah.
for? Yeah.
No, I mean, the bar is providing the most value for, they always have it right now. And now with the time winder, you can get the Ezreal level up. So that's just provided 4 targets for Ezreal. So that is the level up. That's complete now. Seraphine should be safe. I forget what cards they just played. Okay, some fumes and
It's okay.
Misty Shot.
And yeah, Misty Shot.
Oh, unfortunate. Wow, yeah, there's some fume Mystic Shot. That's pretty good. But pretty good, but I don't think it matters, because you have Ezreal leveled up now, and you have a couple of target spells in hand. And that's a lot of clear right now. You only have
Yeah.
the...
I did my
Well,
best.
you still have Shock Blast, excuse me, and the Get Excited.
Yeah, I do like that they did get rid of the Seraphine, because even though the Ezreal level up may come in, I still think that having that Seraphine be a part of it can still be quite risky. So taking her out as soon as possible is always good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Laurents are born with blades in hand.
Loren Blade Keeper comes out onto one of the barkeeps.
Okay.
Now, wait, the Scourge. It's gotta be the Scourge. It's gotta be the Scourge. What? No way. No way.
So why would you think that they don't opt into a Scorch here instead of for this?
The only reason they don't opt into a Scourge is because next turn they have 10 mana, they use an 8-cost Living Legends, refill their mana, and then pull a Scourge anyways.
Okay.
That's the only reason. Is they're looking for a Scourge again, or they're hoping they find something better. Which
Which would be
realistically,
what exactly?
a bunch of random spells that help them.
Well, you're still playing for the spell ball in a way, right? So it's not like it's a
Yeah.
bad call if you really can get those spells to play off around.
See, the Scourge would have been probably the play, just because I don't know. The Scourge probably could have been lethal there because it gives 2/2 overwhelm to everything, but the only problem is that there is still the Thermo Beam in Church of Targon's hand, which could kill the Scourge instantly. But that's why you have the Living Legends. It fills your hand. The Scourge costs 9, then you still have like 2 mana to use another card on it to save it. Come on, come on, come on.
These sort of games are the most enjoyable to see with you because it allows you to backseat so perfectly. It works out
What?
amazingly. So and more the games that take so long that you can see almost any move happening. It's just so fun to see.
It is interesting to watch, but eventually it's sort of like there are only so many things you can choose to do.
You can get mind blown by the moves.
The one thing that we thought wouldn't happen or we didn't really get to thinking of. Okay. Okay. Now you Living Legend? He has 1 mana. Just living. Oh man.
I think okay.
The Shock Blast. The Shock Blast. That's a card that needed to be played with Seraphim. Deal 6 damage to the Nexus.
Yeah, could have gone quite a bit earlier, but still comes down, does a good bit of damage.
Let's go. Random Poro. All the Poros that get a random keyword. Unfortunately, there's only 1 Poro. 2 Ezreals. You have to play 1 now. Because the Victor.
There it is.
Don't know what they're up against.
Yeah, you have 2 Ezreals, so you're not afraid of losing 1
World's a
anymore.
big place. Let's see all of it.
Yeah, you would think so. And it happens. Finally, we do get an Ezreal. There is a picture now on the side
Oh,
of the
take
always
your
have
time,
though.
pal. It's not like I've got better things to do.
Yeah, the Victor. Now is the question of who can get the win faster. Because
After how the game has gone, that's a pretty interesting way to try and get it.
I
Who
know
can win
you're
faster?
editing and stuff, but could you maybe
wait, the Fury of the
speed things up a
Horns
little?
card, the 2-cost burst gives a I want to say quick. It gives you quick attack or double attack if you already have quick attack. That's a really good card to have right now. Mainly because I don't know, it makes your Ezreal stronger.
And that's always good, obviously.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay, there's still another, so it's fine.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
not the end of the world.
Good. Yeah, you can still play the Ezreal and then still Thermo the Victor.
And I think another particularly important thing for the side
we're
of
recalling
Church of
the
Targon,
Ezreal.
and they always have it, the fact that now there's really not that much hand value for they always have it. So this could
Yeah.
be the moment that Church of Targon can really get the game going for them.
Oh, the Moonshine. Wow.
That is sage. Okay.
That's a big card for they always have it. That is a big card. Oh.
And
wait,
there it is. Yep.
there's no Scourge. There's no Scourge though. There is a
Brilliant design.
excuse me, there is the 9-cost dragon from the Celestial card pool. That is elusive spell shield. That's a pretty good one. Pretty good one if I ever said so.
I am more
What do
myself
they
than
choose?
ever.
Oh, spell shield. That's a good one too.
For the picture, maybe.
Yeah, go on. Of course, it goes on the
I agree.
Victor.
Yeah,
Now you're safe from the thermo.
You missed
Now
your
you're safe from
chance.
thermo. And then yeah, we're just getting rid of all of the cheap cards, finding our extra spells and units and whatevers. Victor's Death Ray. Perfect. Excellent use of Victor's Death Ray. Kill the lurk unit that's not going to lurk ever. I feel like you have to play the 6 cost. I feel like you have to play the 6 cost. Unfortunately, you can't play the Golden Sister because you have a full board, so you'll miss out on the Silver Sister. Oh, come on!
What were you expecting?
You gotta play. You gotta play cards. It's not a weight game. It's a card game.
But waiting is part of the game. Some would say.
The main part of the game. Some would even go further to say. There we go. The Great Beyond. Onto the board, level 14. That's why we were playing all the other Celestial cards first.
Time for a true display of skill.
Now they have to play the Ezreal. The Ezreal has to block next turn. Except
Yeah,
the Ezreal can't block because you have the Moonlight Blight. And there it is, the Moonlight Affliction. Cannot block. Big attack from They Always Have It, and it's finally over.
That,
or is it?
Do we have the time?
No, it's over.
Do we have the time that the game lasted completely?
They've
You're between
used
me
30,
and glory.
I think, 30 minutes out of the 50 allotted in the game start.
Okay, we're going to be exact 20.
There's 22 minutes left. Both players have gone at least 5 minutes over. 6 minutes if They Always Have It.
Yeah, this is the word. This is something that production should tell us pretty quickly, and that's it. But still, that it was a long game, and it's still not over. Just in case, we're still just trying to theorize if there's a chance. But it was an attempt, and I like the attempt at the end to salvage it. But the long game finally comes to an end. I know that they weren't really prevalent, but it's still screw Seraphine so much. Just to add on top of that.
Yeah, we'll move on pretty quick. That was a Seraphine match if I've ever seen one. One of the Seraphine matches of all time. If I dare so much to say. Hopefully the next game will be a little bit more interesting. We know it will be the Pirates
We're getting Pirates 100%, so I'm happy for that already.
Yeah, that'll be good. It'll be a little quicker, but thank God. Let's go Pirates. All right, Pirates. This is should be a pretty easy win for the Pirates. Pulling Swain early, not needed, but nice to have. Having the Legionary Guard and the Mariah Warden, definitely a good 1-2, especially starting with the attack token. Starting with the rear guard on attack.
Honestly, that is a really good mix of starting cards. They did try to get the Leviathan, which is not necessarily bad, but I like the starting that They Always Have It went for.
Yeah, it's interesting that they opted to toss back the Spray Fin. I feel like if you're gonna opt to toss back something out of that mulligan, it's the Swain, because the odds are you pull the Swain or you pull the Leviathan.
Yep.
And you're not leveling Swain before or until you can drop him at least. If you get a good attack out of They Always Have It. Yeah, an instant rear guard drop, instant attack. Turn 2 instant. Oh, unfortunate. The low roll defense turn with the Reborn Grenadier. Good on attack, not so good on defensive round.
Yeah, not the kind of thing that you wanted to be able to pull up right now. But it's a bet, and you lost the bet. Really, that's all you have to say.
The rare Mariah Warden L.
Yeah, it doesn't happen typically, but when it does, you feel bad.
It feels bad, man. As we get another big attack out. 7 damage looking so far. Should be a block here, yeah. Surprising that, yeah, I was gonna say surprising that you are opting to lose the Vestian Disciple, but you have to save every health you can into these pirate decks.
You really cannot afford to give up. that much at all. And this is why I like the pirate aggro. Just trying to force your opponent into a bad spot always is really nice to see most of the time.
Yeah, and here we see the Ezreal drop. Next turn, we're going to see the Ezreal attack and likely get just cleared by the Noxian Fervor. And there's not really but the Nopify is the only really way to save it.
I think you would be willing to commit it, no? Just to save the Ezreal?
Yeah, no, you commit the Nopify to save the Ezreal. But I think they always have is a really good spot right now because they can bait out this Mystic Shot with the MF. Oh, wait. I would have waited. Waited until they spend some mana so you can't get Mystic Shotted as MF.
It's not like you don't see it going, but it's not going to be the case.
Yeah, and then now you Noxian Fervor into the Ezreal. Yeah, I was gonna say, now you Noxian Fervor into the Ezreal. You get MF this drop. You get Swain next drop. And this is... Yeah, you get Swain this drop and you just attack. You just open attack with Swain. Well, not open
Makes
attack.
complete
You
sense.
drop Swain
The
and
few
attack.
for the many. Pledge of
Pretty
perish.
straightforward. It's so straightforward that we can call it
No
easily.
sweat.
Yeah, and I think Church of Targon's going to have to use the Telstone into a Homecoming. Yeah, there it is. Telstone into Homecoming. Recall the Swain and the Ezreal. Ezreal is safe. And Swain has to be dropped again, unfortunately.
Yeah, but I don't think it's the worst part that they always have it is worrying about. They are, I think, not only controlling so far the pace of the game, but they are doing a really good job at just threatening so much Church of Targon.
Yeah, but Church of Targon's still doing a good job of, sparing all the health, keeping the Ezreal alive. Losing the Nopify was unfortunate, but at least it went towards saving the Ezreal.
Yeah. And another thing that they have is they still have another Tilson, so it's not like they cannot get another Homecoming just in case.
Exactly. And looking at this attack turn for Church of Targon, it's hard to determine what the plan is. You found
Vision to see
wow, you
what
found
others cannot.
that's an interesting card. The failure card that just got created with the Barkeep. But no, Barkeep is an interesting drop. You reduce cost card in your hand. But Ezreal is something that's harshly needed in this board right now, and
Yep.
this is a big attack from They Always Have It. This is a
Yeah,
big
Targon
one.
doesn't have a lot of tools right now. They do have mana, they have things they can try and play with, but maybe to bump up their board presence, but it's
Ilk of
not that
War
much either.
summons me.
Yeah, and this is definitely not the best place to be in. Like, granted, you still have the Homecoming. You can still recall
Leave them not.
you can still recall something.
Yeah.
Now, it has to be block the Swain with the Barkeep and then recall the Leviathan whilst still blocking with the Bones Scryer.
Filthy elf Inspector Senya.
Ooh. Ooh. Oh. I wonder what their plan is here if they go through with this unit trade.
You bard.
I think the MF is the better choice, even though there is still an MF on hand.
Well, oh, okay, yeah, that works actually really well. Unworthy Soul for the recall saves a good bit of damage, and you're trading into the MF. That's definitely a worthwhile trade here, but this is rough. This can get out of hand very, very quickly, just because of the amount of Swains in hand.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, 3 Swains in reality.
yeah. No, you have 3 Swains. You're going to actually see honestly, you just keep dropping the Swains. You just constantly drop Swains.
Yeah. Until you
Now,
burn it off.
now, slight misplay from They Always Have It. They played two different Swains from their hand, as opposed to playing the same Swain that was already seen twice. So Church of Targon technically knows that there's two Swains and They Always Have its hand, but it doesn't matter at this point. It's a very, very bad spot to be in because one big attack from the Swain Leviathan, and it's almost into you die to a Make It Rain.
Pretty much. They have so much fun. There's so much damage body in hand for they always have it. That's why it's important for Church of Targon to survive just that long enough.
Mm-hmm. And
But will they get that?
Church of Targon has they have the 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 Piltover Tellstones in hand, so they can look for like a progress day, or they can look for something else. But what they need is like, I don't even know how they're going to turn this one around. Like they could go for a bar, hex tech, or the bar landmark now. Get the barkeep on board. Piltover Tellstone into Hextech Transmogrify to turn your barkeep into a Leviathan. I think that's probably the best tactic.
Well, it gets the most damage, right?
Well, you need a unit on board now. Those aren't units. Those aren't things that can block these.
Well, Ezreal can. You just don't want to sacrifice him, but he can.
Fortune favors the bold.
Was getting rid of the Hextech Tellstones worth it there?
Darken the skies!
Still it's still such a risky situation this turn. Oh, nice. Thermogenetic.
Thermogenic's big. The problem is that you don't want to waste 10 mana. Well, that's if you even get to use it at this point.
What's the wares?
Nah, this is
You have to
death,
use it, no?
death by Make It Rain.
Let's take this outside.
This is death by Make It Rain. You have to recall the Swain, and also this is it. There's nothing.
Yeah, I'm trying to think what are the tools that you can really look for.
What technique is this?
Key.
You have to recall the Swain at this rate. You have to recall the Swain with your Ionian Tellstones. What would have been good is keeping the target or the Piltover Tellstone so you can transmogrify. But maybe that wouldn't have even mattered.
There's too much damage body on the side of they always have it ready.
Mm-hmm.
Like their early start just set them up so well that Church of Targon, we knew that they needed to survive long enough, but it's too much when their barrage is so heavy already.
And like the other problem with this is that even with the homecoming, you just double Make It Rain and that's still 8 damage.
Yep.
Because you have the 5 from Leviathan, you have the MF's 1 from her ability, that's 6, and you double Make It Rain. There's only 2 units on board, so there's guaranteed 1 going to the Nexus both times. You double Make It Rain to the win.
Double Make It Rain.
Double Make It Rain. There's the 1, there's the 2, there's the 8 for the win, for They Always Have It. They always have it.
They always have it.
They always
They
have
really always do. They really
spells
always
in
do.
hand. Well done. Good job.
Victory
I think it
awaits.
was a good attempt by the side of Church of Targon. They had good tools, they had a good idea, but I think the execution from They Always Have It was really, really good.
It was definitely a well-played game. They always have it, you know. A little annoying, I think, is the only word to
Yeah,
say, because of how many recalls there were from Church of Taron. Like, that was the only thing. Is like, you kept getting recalled, but it still didn't matter. There was nothing that Church of Targon could possibly do that would stop your inevitable win with Swain and Leviathan and MF. Because as long as the units stayed alive, getting recalled to your hands, like, whatever, I'll just play them both on my defense turn and attack again and force you to use a huge amount of resources to stop yourself from dying.
pretty much. And it's just the kind of sad situation that you're forced into in these
Hmm.
sort of matchups. Like there are tools to try and play it off, but when you get your Ezreal denied so easily, when your Seraphine isn't even prevalent that much, then
Hmm.
your tools to try and get rid of a lot of those cards are not present either, because there was tools, but just simply they weren't on time or on point when you actually needed them to use. And you just allowed for the damage to keep on scaling on the side of they always have it, and your responses weren't that good enough, sadly.
Hmm. And that's part of the reason why Ezreal Seraphine Noxus is the more preferred version to Ezreal Seraphine Ionia, because we saw
Yeah,
it right there. The Ezreal Seraphine Noxus decks that we saw earlier in the night were able to clear the board as opposed to just stall out. Because the Ezreal Seraphine with Ionia, they could only send cards back to hand. With the Noxus one, you disintegrate, Blade's Edge. Oh, that 7 health Leviathan that's constantly threatening you, that's
it's
gone.
down.
Oh,
Yep,
the Swain, the third Swain that's gotten dropped, you have another you have another disintegrate. That Swain's gone again. Oh, the MF, you're playing Piltover, you get excited. that's that's part of the
it's
problem. Is like the
exactly.
Nox just has so much more actual clear versus the Ionians, just like stall.
And those are the tools that they were desperately kind of looking forward to.
Yeah.
Now, I think that it was a really long. No, I'm not going to not say it. It was a really long series, because it lasted much more than I was expecting. But at the same time, I think both teams played really well. They had to think out, and I think it shows the intricacies of this kind of part of the format, right? Where you know that there's three people thinking, you know that there's three people trying to make a different suggestion to try and get the better out of the opponent. So it's fun seeing how well they adapt and how much can they get between the three of them.
Hmm. Yeah, it's definitely a lot of fun watching the games. I mean, it was long, you mentioned it, but it was
Yeah.
definitely like constant like planning. Like, what is the best route? Like, I'm sure in the calls it was like, okay, well, if we do this with the cards we have, we could do this if we pull this. So it's always fun to see that. Unfortunately, it was just two long games, but they were still good, and it was still very good showing from both teams in terms of the strategic thinking, because they were playing very very complicated decks. They weren't just sort of
Yep.
like running at it with like a Vayne Zed where they just constantly attack with Zed and that's it. There's
We
there's a
kind of
lot of
wanted to see that though. We're not like we wanted to see that, but yeah, it was a
no.
much more strategical approach overall.
Yeah, and I'm checking with our Hirsch. I don't think there's there's no interview this time. That's gonna be it from us here today. Anything you want to end off with, TDS?
I'm glad to be back. I was already waiting to be back on the Aegis lore broadcast. We've been doing other things, so I'm glad that I'm here. And if you're interested in R6, I'm going to be casting that as well tomorrow and Sunday, so you can check me out there on my
Alrighty.
Twitter. Just go to my Twitter, follow it, and you can see.
All right. Well, that will be it for us here tonight on the Legends of Runeterra podcast league. Excuse me, for the Aegis Esports. Uh, Definitely a very fun match from They Always Have It. Taking the win over Church of Targon. But like I mentioned, that's it for us. I'm Doncast. I've been joined by TDS. We'll catch you next time.